Hey there, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. It looks like we've had quite a few of you shuffle in beforehand. 13 of you, holy cow, and 11 likes. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. I've got Adam and Rom backstage. We're going to bring them forward here in just a second. I just wanted to thank all of you who stuck by the channel and sent me well wishes while I was sick. As you can hear, I'm starting to get a little bit better. Got a little gravel in my voice. Maybe I'll stick around for a bit. Who knows? But all of you guys reached out, and I really do appreciate it. It meant quite a lot. So thank you. Ted Cruz's plum suit. Yes, Tactical Beagle. We will cover that. I promise. I have it in my DMs. It's beautiful. You made a wonderful meme about it. All right, so let me, with no further ado, let me go ahead and, oh, not that. Although that's a good one. Where is it? Oh, yeah, this one. Let me go ahead and introduce both Ron Moeller and Adam K. If you guys follow me and you don't already know who they are, that'd be very surprising. But let's start with Adam. Adam was a member of the Trump administration. Do you wanna go a little deeper into that, Adam?
Yeah, so I was a member of the Trump administration in the Commerce and then the Treasury Department. You can Google my name if you could spell it, and you can see the litany of places of where I have negative pieces written about me.
Well,
all of them are half true. I also served in the Marine Corps, and I'm a big fan of Watcher's show, and also the Council on Future Conflict. So back to you, Watcher.
Well, and he wrote a comment, and he wrote a fantastic article about it today, which we're going to be getting to. We're probably not going to read the whole thing because we want to encourage you guys to go into it. But what I'm probably going to do is have the author read you guys the first 2 paragraphs or so, and then we'll drop you guys a bunch of links to that so we can try and get as many threads to his oft neglected Substack. And then Ron, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? You can just say spook. You can say as much as you're comfortable with.
Hi, I'm Ron. I was born a poor black child in the lower corner of Alabama. I starred in a Steve Martin movie a long time ago as the No, I'm kidding. Uh, uh, what Adam's not telling you, everybody, is that the reason he moved from Commerce to Treasuries, he can't hold a job. I mean, the Marine Corps found him wanting, and then he went to Commerce, then he went to Treasury, and now he's hanging out in some poor little apartment in West Virginia, going, "Gee, if only Mary Lou and her brother would come and see me." You know, like I'm. Yeah, it's terrible. It's just terrible, folks. But Adam, seriously, you has written a great article, and I'm really excited that he's going to share it with you guys. And I'm really glad to be here with Watcher. Who, hey, if you folks aren't liking this and sharing it with your other social media peeps, shame on you, because we need to get Watcher much more um, viewership and things like that. And maybe that white beard will actually go back to its natural, dirty brown color.
We'll see. So real quick, just to address something, as long as he's not a Keynesianist, he's okay. Do you think for a single second that I would entertain even discussing anything with a Keynesianist economist? Please, please. What do you take me for?
I'm not an economist even, so
Well,
I
sure,
just
but
make up as I go. I'll give you the trick of politics. It's that I think of something that sounds slightly cool, and then I just beat it till it dies.
Oh, you truly did grow up in the Trump school of politics. All right, let's. So speaking of which, folks, it seems that it seems that the Democrats have taken a lesson from you, good sir, as they have latched onto something. They think it's good for them, and they are just gonna beat it until it dies. And in the words of that poor kid from Simpsons, stop! He's already dead. Um. So let's talk about this. Sorry, I'm gonna have to show you guys the back screen here. I know this is bad form, but I've yet to figure out a good way to switch this, chat. So here we have it, folks. Let's just, before we get to anything else, this is the man who authorized the raid on the Trump compound. The judge. I'm just gonna. We don't have to even say anything. I'm just. I saw this, and I had to see it, and now you do too.
Well, let's just be honest here. He's not like a federal circuit judge or anything. He's a federal magistrate judge. I mean, that's the lowest of the low in the judge, hierarchy of needs.
That's right.
I mean, this is the guy who does federal night court. I mean, this is the guy with no respect.
Well, let's talk about how little respect he has. So, do we know who this is?
I can't remember his name, but I know who he used to represent.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He has a similar dinner that I had just now. So
Go. Oh. Well, at least there's that, right? I think he's got the same laptop I do as well. Yeah, that face. So let me go back in here, guys. We've got a pretty clear definition of who he is, and let's go into it. God damn it! I should have organized this better. Oh well.
that's okay. We can just crack wise until you find it. So
That's what you guys are here for. By the way, Tactical Wisdom's here in chat and ask, where are all the white women at?
I sent them home. I didn't want to embarrass myself tonight.
Well, they're certainly not anywhere near Michigan, there, Joe. So I mean, they've all run away because they've heard about your enormous survival, Johnson.
So here we are, folks.
You asked for it.
His name is Bruce Reinhardt. And not only was he formerly Epstein's lawyer, after Epstein was given what many would speculate was a sweetheart deal, he also became the lawyer of all of Epstein's associates in that former case, and they were all miraculously also given the same incredible no documents ever get out, nobody ever gets to talk about this again deal. Just an interesting note.
Yeah. it's disturbing, right? That original trial, I did a little bit of deep diving about 6 months ago or so about it, and since then I've had too many white claws along the way. But there, it's a very weird trial if you read about it. Like among the attorneys, including the prosecutors, there's all these like weird, like how PG-13 is this class? This thing,
Brother, this is. Let's see, how many minutes are we in? Yeah, you're good. Say whatever the fuck you want.
Okay, so there's like all sorts of weird sex shit that happens between the prosecutors and the defense team
I've
throughout
heard
this
that.
whole thing. And there like for example, one attorney who was on the Epstein, like Epstein had a team of attorneys, right? One of the attorneys who was on the Epstein team, she was the on again, off again ex girlfriend who was on again during the trial time of one of the prosecutors from the U.S. Attorney's Office, and so like if you like just take a pause and think about what Jeffrey Epstein actually was and his associates, like you realize that like all these people got opt, and somehow this guy got a sweet sinecure as a magistrate, hoping that eventually he'll moved his way up to a real judge someday. And so like talk about failing upwards, just because you did a adequate job of keeping one of the worst human beings out of prison,
So
And
for
like here's the thing too,
for unbelievably large sums of money. Let's
for unbelievable. But here's the thing too, is like you always have to ask the question, like, and I won't say more. It's like, who does the attorney always work for? Like the thing about mob fixers is that it's rarely the guy that they're actually representing.
Yep.
So, and I'll leave it at that.
No, it's very true. It's very true. And when you look into the whole thing as an op, you start to have to look at how many security steps would have been taken to remain where we are now, with how many layers have been broken to not figure out who's at the top. Definitely somebody who knows what they're doing and has a well organized game.
Well, if they're so well organized, you would think that as they were judge shopping, they would sort of go, this might not be the best, magistrate dude to select to sign this warrant because of all the baggage he has. I mean, let's pick some person who graduated from Twitter law summa cum laude or something like that. I mean, good Lord.
Now I hear what you're saying, but chat, go ahead and prep your tinfoil. Remember, wrap it tightly around the skull to
just remember, my laser eyes do penetrate tinfoil, folks.
No, it's true, but look, I hear what you're saying, Ron, but I always remind myself to never assume that I know my enemy's intentions behind a move, right? It's something that I learned from, as cliche as this is to say, it's something that I learned when reading Sun Tzu. And that's who really got it through to me. I think that if you look at this with an entirely different intention set, say one of causing maximum conflict and of getting hotheads to lose their heads, this makes the most sense. You couldn't pick anybody better.
Well, I mean it's but it's a distraction from the overall issue. I mean, we still haven't actually seen the warrant. I mean, have we? I don't know. I mean,
we've so let's talk about what we have seen of the warrant. So we haven't seen this, but so before I get to this, let's just say that coincidentally, what we've seen of everything just so happens to have come out of the Washington Post. Now, who is the FBI director's daughter married to?
Oh man!
Oh wait, it might be his son who's married to. I can't remember.
Well, you're not sure of the person's gender, or what?
No, I'm not sure whether it is a daughter or a son. I just know that it is their child who is married to the current head editor of the Washington Post. Anyhow, and so it's just very interesting that all this information about the raid has come out through that source. I wonder what could possibly be happening there. But let's just pull this up real quick. So What we have seen so far is a description of the items. Remember, if you have a warrant, you have to be looking for very specific items. Description of items that were improperly taken to Mar-a-Lago include a cocktail napkin, a phone list, charts, slide decks, letters, memos, maps, talking points, a birthday dinner menu, schedules, and more. So, notes written on a barroom napkin and a Rolodex is my guess. Oh, and don't forget that very important birthday dinner menu. So it very much looks like this is about archival stuff. This is stuff that Trump took, not thinking that they didn't have a copy of it somewhere, right? Because
Right.
I mean, it's not as if there's only one copy made of most of these things. Gee, it's almost as if someone were trying to set him up so that they could go on a fishing expedition and find out what other type of documents he might be holding before they try and go after him for other stuff, so that they know what he might throw at them. And thought he was dumb enough to just keep something like that in his safe at his house.
You mean the empty safe?
Yeah, well, so far that is the description that we've seen. Although, if we hold on here, I did get a note about what one. Hold on, this was some intercepted comms that I heard. So, wrong one. This one. No, sir. No incriminating evidence in Trump's safe. Just a note that says any Fed who reads this is double gay, sir. I read it.
I guess he's going to be part of that Proud Boys brigade now, huh?
Well, I'm just saying that he's on monkeypox watch. That's what we'll say.
Oh God. I hope everybody's vaxxed.
Right.
I've heard talk, and I've actually seen posts of people who are like, "Oh, well, I can go to the orgy now. I've been vaxxed."
But it's a public health emergency. But hey, fentanyl's okay because it even though it's killing tens of thousands of Americans a year, but that's okay. That's not a public health emergency. That's not an invasion.
Hey,
But we'll worry about the modern version of AIDS or something like that.
hey, we live in a society,
Right, we certainly do.
Well, we live in something.
Oh,
Good Lord.
So, as well as all this, because we'll get further into the raid here, but now Republican Representative Scott Perry tells Fox that the FBI, at the same time as it was conducting the raid, took his phone at the airport, a trend that we've seen a lot recently.
Mm.
And by the way, he's a retired brigadier general. I don't remember what service, but I mean, come on, guys. I mean, what are you looking at? 7 days of May here?
In that case, like, I don't know, maybe I side with the FBI on this one if he's a retired brigadier general. Like, yeah, sometimes they should have their stuff tossed a little bit.
But they'd never toss the right ones. It'd never be Millie getting it. It'd only be somebody who actually had the balls to stand up to them.
Of course. No, it's funny because clearly I think he was at CPAC with that because
he was at convention. It says Convention of States in the background of the
right.
Behind
It
him
looks
there.
like the sponsorship thing I was at. One of those
Right.
things you stand in front of for photos.
Let me pull that back up
today or this week. But it's because there's Lindell TV right there and all that. But
Moms for America,
yeah, Moms for America. But here. So I mentioned this in my Substack, not to get to the point of it too quickly, is that there's the Department of Justice has usually used discretion when it comes down to improprieties of past presidents for the sake of the good of the country, right? Presidents do stupid shit too, right? Pardon my language. And this level of shark jumping, right? They're really jumping the shark in the kind of the Happy Days reference here with all this, is that it's becoming to the point where they're using the hammer that they have and everything is becoming a nail, right? When there's clearly either there's a systemic problem of under investigating these people before there's a problem, such that now they're having to go to the well of getting a warrant and seizing people's electronics and personal documents, or they're really gung ho about moving forward and moving really hard in the paint to do all these things. And this is something that should have a bipartisan concern about, is that. Go
Yes.
ahead.
No, I was going to say yes, and somebody that I heard earlier encapsulated it absolutely perfectly when they said, gee, I'm really glad that the FBI spent the last 6 years building a real ground of trust and a good relationship with the American people before they decided to take such an unbelievably unprecedented act.
Well, like I have to turn this over to Ron real quick. Ron, in your entire military, paramilitary career, did you ever imagine that the CIA would look better than the FBI? Ever?
No. I mean, we're always the bad boys.
Right?
So,
Right?
and
Like
girls.
you could MK Ultra a whole lot of people right now, and like still the FBI would look really stupid.
Well, see, here's the deal. The CIA was a lot better about destroying those documents than other people have been thus far, right? You didn't get any reports of deleted phones back then. You just got documents burned to a crisp.
Well, they were just videotapes of interrogations.
Right. They just made it into someone's personal vault in the middle of the Great Plains states, but.
maybe some duchy with a deep lake somewhere.
That's why that one gun safe. I can't remember the combo too. Yep.
But no, it's just amazing. This is exactly what all the people who have memed the problem of federal law enforcement for years were said, is that basically unaccountable law enforcement apparatuses, what left unregulated and unwashed and unpoliced by themselves, can do like all sorts of like kind of crazy stuff. And this is a real expectations violation. We kind of expect a judicious use and discreet use of police powers, right? You shouldn't be noticing police in your neighborhoods. You shouldn't be seeing them. There's supposed to be a degree of silent professionalism with this stuff. And just a number of incidences where there's been high profile police actions over things that that should have been handled more discreetly, on top of a lack of answers when it comes to various massacres in American history since the whole Las Vegas thing. It just really shows like a mismatch of priorities that we have here in this country. We were discussing about this a little bit earlier. Is that there's a lot of structural problems here that it's really hard to like articulate, and people are going to the well with rage, right? They're just raging against the system, or they're seal clapping that their political enemies are being chased down by law enforcement, and neither of those things are good.
Well, see, and I might have to disagree with both of you somewhat. And I'll admit right now that I brought you guys on because while we agree on many things, we don't agree on all things. And so let me start the conversation before we get into what happened and what we think should be done and all this. Let me just give you the logical basis for where my opinion on this comes from. Can we all agree on the following two premises? That an enemy within the walls has the potential to be significantly more dangerous than an enemy without of the walls. Correct? Like in almost any scenario, an enemy within, that is especially one within your own command structure, is significantly more dangerous. And two, I believe that there is no power which exists that you can give government that will not at some point be abused. Right?
Yeah.
So if we agree on those two premises, we can move forwards, because that's what mine is based off of.
And that's our show tonight, folks. Thank you for tuning in.
No, and subscribe.
We're not done. It's just when I say things, remember that that's where we came from. And with that, I'm going to turn it over for the next minute and 15 seconds to a significantly younger looking Ron Paul from 1988. Take it away, Ron.
Oh, wow.
Most of our history we didn't.
Oh, hold on. You guys can't hear it because I've got to unmute the share for you guys.
Oh, it was the tinnitus.
That's it's only one ear.
Most of our history we didn't have.
Damn
those
artillery.
institutions. The FBI came in during the First World War, and interestingly enough, one thing that Woodrow Wilson did, he used the FBI to spy on American citizens and actually arrest them if they disagreed with his foreign policy about going to war in Europe. Isn't it interesting how recent they used it in the Vietnam era? Democrats used it there. Republicans used the FBI to spy on 100 different groups in this country, including the churches, who disagree with the policy in Central America. It almost looks like the FBI was designed to spy on Americans who might be disagreeing with policy, especially the foreign policy. So the FBI, although I don't think I can condemn it.
Hey, I'm going to take a quick pause and just say thank you, my Beavers unit, for stopping by. I understand how many much larger channels you mod for, and I really appreciate you even just stopping by to say hi, and I significantly appreciate all the different places that you pimp my tiny, tiny channel out to. It's noticed and greatly appreciated. You're fantastic. All right, take it away, Ron.
Everything they've ever done, because I'm sure some of the investigations and investigation of crime has been beneficial, but that could be accomplished through Justice Department within our states. We wouldn't reject that portion of it. I think the FBI has kept and continues to keep a lot of records on a lot of individuals. The CIA has only been here since 1947. Their record is lousy.
It's funny you had mentioned did you ever think the CIA, and like literally in this clip, like they cut it out, so I'm not even going to go into it, but he starts going into all the various things that everybody's mad at the CIA about. But before we move on, let me just tell you, my earliest memory of the FBI goes as the following. My Proctor family was religious, and they were Mormon. And the great-grandparents of my Proctor family were visited by the FBI and heavily investigated because they were canning food, which the FBI saw as suspicious activity. That was back in the 90s.
Wow.
So, I am actually very much, and have been for a long time, on the guys. Any power we give them can be used against us. They have a lot of really great things they can do. They really do. But every one of those great toys can and will be turned against us at some point, because the people who operate them at the very top are fallible. They're humans, and they have wants and desires, and they cave specifically to, shall we say, systems of... why can I not think of it? My brain is spacing. When you give a dog a treat when it's trying to learn a trick. Never mind. I say it all the time, and suddenly my brain is entirely gone for it.
Knick-knack?
No.
Paddywhack, give a dog a bone?
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for that. No. Symptoms of incentives. That's what it is. People at the very top always respond to systems of incentives, which in the end generally tend to turn them into using these things for their own personal benefit, which inevitably leads to it being used against the benefit of those who are paying for it, the citizens.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think... and that's exactly the thing. It's like, that's why like heroes in these films tend to be like rogue cops, right? Like you think about just even the dramatization of all these things, is that it's oftentimes the police officer who is doing something that is the right thing that's against the wrong thing, both in the criminal world but also in the bureaucracy, right? And we were talking before the live stream kicked off, just like a misallocation of resources in a kind of a general sense. And you have this, you do create this case where, like I said earlier, where everything becomes the nail, and its only answer is the hammer, right? Which is the FBI's full suite of tools, right? Like, and so you create, like, it's an institution that creates its own incentives, and so there's a saying out there, when you like insult somebody on a deeply personal level, there's some of that's autobiography, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the whole, when you go fighting monsters, you have to be careful of not becoming one yourself.
Oh yeah.
The FBI oftentimes does, in effect, act like its rival, whatever it's pursuing, right? When it's organized crime, it takes up the demeanor of like the criminal organizations it faces. It becomes this kind of like de facto Gestapo, NKVD replacement, because that's literally who it actually like. I guess sort of NKVD, but that's like who it was facing off at one point, right? And so you create and what happens when there's a mismatch of resources, right? And what it happens is it's the other guys, but it's not a funny movie. Instead of like them like tracking down a couple like SEC frauds and like having a hilarious film in the process, they screw over regular people using like very very sophisticated and powerful law enforcement tools. And this is something that, like, even though you can get compensated back for any time lost monetarily via various ways that they do that type of stuff, like the amount of pain the federal government can bring to a regular person is just unparalleled, right?
Yes.
And that's the thing, is like, because the reality is that like the state level, outside of outside of a few states, just lack the resources to really 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 ruin your life in most instances, right? Whereas the feds can ruin your life just by like knock on your door, asking a question, and you innocently telling a white lie. Like that like, even though that's not really how it happens, that's basically how the rules work, is that they can fuck you at any time they want. And like that's it. That's why like these, like, talking different department like ATF, like these knock questionnaires of what guns you have in your house are
Oh
so
boy.
evil,
Oh
right?
boy.
It's a questionnaire with like a technical name of the type of weapon that you've purchased according to the ATF database, and its serial number, right? And so like they're going to ask you, here's 6 guns that you're supposed to have, and this is what they're called, and this is the serial number. And like, if you don't answer in a perfectly correct way, it gives them reasonable cause. That, like, even if you did nothing wrong, right? And I'm not saying that everybody who gets the door knocked by the ATF did nothing wrong, but I'm saying there's enough people out there who could get their lives ruined with this stuff.
Oh, certainly. Oh,
And like
certainly.
this,
And there are enough people who've been reporting into me who are watchers of my show and have said stuff like, "Hi, I'm a vet, and my left-leaning aunt doesn't agree with my politics and has now called in a red flag on me."
mhm.
Uh,
Watcher of the watcher on the web.
yeah, many such cases. But yeah, Jen. So with that said, they can come after, and if they can come after somebody like a former president, they can come after any of us. So with that being said, let's talk about the rumble that happened down in Florida. Adam, do you want me to bring up your article, or do you want to just kind of talk through it?
You can bring it up just real quick to show
All right.
people. I kind of already discussed some of the things I discussed here, but basically, I kind of try to go a little bit deeper into the analysis of what happened, and what it means, because like the Twitterati really wants to say, "Oh, this is Soviet-esque." It's like, "Oh, okay, great, Soviet-esque, great. What does that mean for the body politic?" And you have allegations of Presidential Records Act violations and mishandling of classified information, or sorry, documents. But when beyond the allegations, beyond the raid, you have a history of the FBI selectively prosecuting certain crimes. Christopher Wray's The FBI director, Christopher Wray's statement before Congress, saying that they lack the resources to pursue every single lead, and that they have, and they have to. Well, a noble thing to acknowledge in public, which we all kind of knew already, is also like has a sinister side to it. That means the FBI and the prosecutors that they actively work with. So it's the FBI typically, because the prosecutors tend to defer to the FBI's judgment on some of this stuff, um, are basically those arbiters of what becomes these things that are investigated criminally. And so you have this whole scenario
Well, and and
that
and and
wrapped
uh,
into.
and remind the audience real quick before we move on from that point, Adam. What kind of oversight do they have?
Well, that's a great question. I have never been able to figure that out other than the Department of Justice itself. But
That's
like,
that was kind of the point.
right, like, so I know they are supposed to, sort of like a military unit. They're supposed to have like people whose responsibility is to do like internal checks in a field office, right? And then they have like different layers of that. But the thing is that this is somebody who's trying to make it to management fundamentally. This is not someone outside the chain of command. This is not like an inspector general style unit who's who's rewarded off of investigating misbehavior like it works in the military. This is just another special agent who's in charge of a particular type of thing that wants to be that special agent in charge. So like you have this whole kind of like mafioso, scratch my back, I'll scratch yours type attitude towards these things.
Well, and let's be clear, even in the military, which I thoroughly believe in some instances is really the best case scenario you can get for some of these things, because you've got these outside organizations that come in to investigate. Even there, I saw whistleblowers about shit that is not important to national security at all, but was definitely like bad. Just get hounded and drummed out because the guy they were blowing the whistle against was an O5. So who the fuck cares about some little fucking pissant E3? Like it's just politics, baby.
Right. Well, we had this problem in my unit about a uh, uh, O3E Mustang captain who was doing all sorts of very illegal shit on his from his office, and like the Fulberg colonel who was the inspector general said they're like, I would love to be able to prosecute him, but we're just going to force him to retire because no one wants to like take the embarrassment of this thing. And I'm like, well, that's fucked,
Yeah.
So because he's a defense contractor now.
I was just gonna say, because he can get out and he's probably still maintained his clearance and he can go get whatever job he wants.
Oh yeah, but they that's just how the world works with stuff. But it's probably even worse in law enforcement because like there's not like a jag arm. You just
Exactly.
kind of have to like hope other police officers care.
Well, as look, activists mostly are wrong, but they do have a couple of sayings that really do ring true, and one of those that I love is, "We have investigated ourselves and found we've done nothing wrong." And it's
That's what I tell my wife all the time.
Exactly right. Like there was an investigation on who was supposed to do the dishes, and it was clearly found that no communication was found to be had about this. And as per standard ruling, when no communication is to be had, the last person who did the job will continue to do the job. Therefore, not guilty.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go over this because there's a super important point that you pointed out there, which is, guys, every bit of discretionary measure that they have, that's where they weaponize. It's literally like if you look at what parts of the government have been weaponized, it's every bit of discretionary measure that anybody has. If you get guess what? One of the things that allowed the CRT and the other shit to start penetrating into federal agencies was there was clearly defined that we're going to have this kind of sexual assault and anti-discrimination training. It was never clearly defined what that training would be or who would provide it, and therefore, guess what? We'll just sneak that in there. Anyhow, go ahead.
Actually, I have a small point to make. I just want to talk about attitude. During my mediocre agency career, I was a chief of base in Afghanistan, one of the numerous bases, and next door to my little compound was the FBI compound. And I'm like, oh, okay,
God.
cool, whatever. Oh, that's all right because these guys all dressed like they were rejects from the Hell's Angels or
Yeah.
something. It was hilarious because they thought that was what they needed to dress like. Um, and because I was supposedly the BNI rep as well, I was supposed to oversee them. I'm like, yeah, right. I'm not going to oversee these guys. Um, what stands out in my mind is there was because they rotated through about every 3 months. I was there for a 1 year tour. They um, this group was from the New York field office, and they were supposedly New York's field office SWAT officers, not HRT, but SWAT like guys. So whatever, and they like to party. And for those of us who served overseas in the war zones, we know about General Order Number One, which means that hey, military people, no alcohol. It's a quick way to an Article 15 reduction in grade, yada yada yada. Well, they had parties, and because they weren't subject to the UCMJ, they had alcohol. We had alcohol too in the agency compound, but I kept the say yeah we'll drink, but not in eye shot of any military people because we're not going to do that. They had parties. They would invite young female enlisted people over, and they would get them shit faced and then have their way with them. Needless to say, the poor female soldiers would get the book thrown at them, and the
Oh, of
and the
course.
FBI guys would just sort of like la di da di da. Hey, you're eligible. Cool. Come to my next party.
God.
Um.
I
Anyways, it finally.
God.
Go ahead.
No. I have to be honest. Just a quick interjection. Is there any weirder job in the world than being a low level female enlisted man who is even a 4 on a scale of 1 to 10? Uh, moving on. Go ahead, Ron. I'm just thinking
Well,
it like, god damn.
in Afghanistan, after about 4 days being stationed there, everybody's a fucking 10.
It's true.
But
Deployment
and no,
goggles, baby.
Beaver, we don't drink White Claw, and they didn't drink White Claw. I don't even think White Claw was in existence back then. But stop it. Uh, you know,
Is that a
to,
peppermint one? It's barber striped like it's a peppermint
It's
or something.
strawberry.
Oh God.
oh my
You're not
God.
helping the case. Move on. Run.
Anyways, I guess the division sergeant major finally had enough because he was, you know, sensing a trend. Go figure. I mean, like, duh, sergeant major. I mean, I've like basically taken the 2x4 to your forehead. Figure it out. Anyways, he gets those guys out of country, and so the new guys come in, and it's led by a senior special agent in charge from a large city field office who brings in totally new people, and the attitude was 100% different because before the previous unit who liked to party, they would go out with us and the JSOC guys on raids to do SSE, sensitive site exploitation, to
Right.
look at the computers, the pocket litter,
Right.
the paper that was there, whatever, cell phones, etc. And they sort of did a real half-assed job of that. Thank God we hey, look at this, guys, and if there's something of law enforcement value, we'll pass it to you, but we're gonna take it. And the JSOC guys figured that out too. Um, but it was just an attitude that they were omnipotent to the point that they could do anything. They could break any rule. They could endanger young female soldiers' careers without any repercussions to themselves. I mean, I went over and talked to them and told them to knock it off, and they basically told me that they didn't have to obey the military's rules. And I'm like, God, really? And that's it was a really it was a bad scene, and that's an attitude that the of the FBI that I hadn't seen up to that point because I had worked with some of the joint terrorism task forces in the states that were very professional, and but that was all pre 9/11, and I think after 9/11, um, everybody that had any sort of an idea of any grifting, hey, I can make money off this, or I can get more tail, whatever. I'm trying to be polite for the audience. Um, the, it was
No,
it
it's
was
true.
it was it was like free use Willie. They were all over the place,
No,
and
no. Look,
it was a terrible thing. And those people. I mean, I'm talking 2006. So those people were for junior to middle management or agents or whatever, and now a lot of those guys are in senior management, and
yeah,
the rules do not apply to them.
yeah.
The ethics and integrity that we expect of them, that fidelity, integrity, bravery thing that the supposedly the FBI stands for, doesn't apply anymore. Not to them, because they're above the law. They can do what they want.
So I have to just reinforce what you're saying there. I will say that the only guy that I know for sure, like 100% for sure, that got headhunted. I hung out with a lot of intel guys when I was in because I ended up becoming a roommate with a staff sergeant who was an interrogator, and we made friends from there, if that makes sense. And in fact, I won't play this game on air if you guys want to, but one of my favorite games to play because of him is how many hours before the announcement did you know that a certain special somebody got schwacked? Because that generally says how far up the chain your source of information is. I'll say 8 hours, by the way. No, 6. Sorry. By the time I heard it, it was 6 hours. The guy that I heard it from had heard it from 8 hours ago. Anyways, he was legitimately the scariest person I've ever met. Like the only person that I can guarantee, like for sure, say he was a psychopath, and he knew it himself and admitted to me that he was such, and admitted that it helped with his job, right? He wasn't a very pleasant person. Seemed like one in the beginning, right? Most of the really dangerous people do seem like quite nice people while you're still useful to them. He had the exact same kind of attitude you're talking about, and got headhunted to the FBI specifically because of that attitude. And I shudder to think what he's doing in the agency nowadays. If he's still there, I very purposefully have not kept tabs on him.
Well, I think it's a really good point because they, like you do any sort of reading about the history of espionage or organized crime, and they like these places, American, Russian, British, Israeli, Chinese, doesn't matter. Like they actually find people with severe personality
Yes.
deficits
Because they're useful.
Right. They're not only just because they're useful, but because you can have people who are cling to amoral standards of behavior, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to explain this to like a younger right wing, well, I don't want to call him right wing, but a younger conservative gentleman yesterday on Twitter Space, and he's like, "Oh, these people are perfectly ideological." It's like, like there's people out there who just do things because it's cool and it's
Oh
fun.
God, yeah. No,
And
look. Stop. If you have any illusions, if I could tell you the number of people that I talked to who said they joined the Marine Corps because they wanted to murder someone and get away with it legally, and they meant it with every fiber of their being, you would be shocked. You would be paralyzed. Go ahead. Like,
right. Well, like like when you have when you are given when you have a duty and you're given responsibility, you get privileges that come with it. And in the special world, they people get to lie, cheat, steal, and kill sometimes. With the authority of it. Now, imagine like that's like OGA world, like that's like truly special CIA special, right? Now imagine that like you're an organization with a counterintelligence mission, but you primarily LARP as an intelligence agency, but you're primarily a law enforcement thing. But you still have to touch like the mirror darkly of like all the worst things though that could possibly happen in the country. But you're still like this like you're a bastard version of police, but you're a bastard version of intelligence. You're a bastard version of a paramilitary organization. You don't even have the reputation of the marshals, right? Which are like, marshals are probably like the most
well,
they have the highest casualty rates of like of any law enforcement in America just because of the number of gunfights they get into. So like you have this thing, and then you have like people who are highly narcissistic who join these things, and you just create disaster out of it. And that's the thing is like these people are some of these people are required to like find and vet sources, right? And like this is something I allude to in my article is that like even if the agent themselves are acting appropriately, you don't you're kind of relying on wherever the information came from to give you like that kind of to give you that go or no go decision on a warrant in this case.
No,
And
yeah,
it's
no. Intelligence agencies are only as good as the quality and surety of the information that they're given. And if somebody is deliberately trying to mislead them, and if they have enough power to infect enough sources, or they have enough power to, say, force an entire investigation to rely on a single dubious source, cough, cough, steal, cough. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. It's just
No, I just want to point out that when I got to the base where I was the base chief in late 05, early 06, there was this quote unquote premier Afghan interpreter who was actually a U.S. person. He was a green card holder out of the greater D.C. area, and he rapidly tried to establish dominance over me, like, because I know everything about Afghanistan and you don't know anything. You're the new guy. Of course, he doesn't realize it was, I think, my 6th or 7th tour there. But yeah, okay, whatever. And he started, coming up to me and said, "Okay, I got this scoop from interrogating the detainees here in the in the local detainment facility. Um, so and so, this village is a hotbed of Talibanism and stuff like that." So I go like, "Wow, that's just too convenient." And just the way he was overly trying to impress and please me. Um, I go, and I started asking him, I said, so what tribe are you from? What where are you from within Afghanistan? What your family? And I come to find out that he's from the competing villages, tribe, sub clan, yada yada yada. I'm not going to do the whole Venn diagram, but that he he was trying to help his buds that were still back in the hood here in Afghanistan, establish dominance over their local territory, their local area. And then I come to find out that because he was such a great guy and he'd done such a wonderful job, and my predecessors and other people had written him awesome letters of recognition, he was actually just about to get hired by the agency, my agency, as an in-house language expert on all things Afghanistan and Pushtun and Dari, yada yada. So I'm like, yeah, let's put a hold on that. And well, he didn't get that job, and I was able to get him sent home. But the point is not it's
you wonder
the
how many
people that
make
give
it
you
through the net before.
well, yeah, but the it's not just the information, it's the people that give you that information. You have to, like, what's this person's agenda, and where's this person coming from. I'm sorry, I'm not able to quantify it properly. Maybe
well,
Adam, you can help me, but
yeah,
go
actually,
ahead.
it's funny because like read a book recently, the Spy Who Would Be Czar: The Mystery of Michael Korzeniewski in the Far Right Underground. Michael Korzeniewski is a Russian who was a colonel in Polish intelligence that defected to the West, and he outed something like over a dozen very, very, very high profile senior U.S., German, and British officials who were actually agents of the KGB, primarily the KGB because the Polish intelligence was terrible. Um, and anyways, in it they talk about how unique of a character he was because he was an ethnic Russian somehow in Polish intelligence, and in Polish intelligence, you had to at the time of his recruitment, you had to be able to prove the three previous generations before you, birth, date, occupation, and all that in your male and female side of your family. because like these things are incredibly important, even in European countries where people are not, they're not intermarrying in the same kind of aggressiveness that you'd see in like the Middle East or South Central Asia, right? Because like that's autobiography. Biography kind of tells you intent and like where people go, and where people choose to go to university, and all that stuff is like weighs heavily based off of incentives, and it's all about incentives here.
Well, and it's interesting you would bring that up because is there not an issue with that in our own intelligence agencies? Is there not a huge issue with them raising their own children to become agents, and then it just so happens that if you look at like the percentage of agents whose parents were part of the agency versus those who weren't, it's like 80-20 or something ridiculous like that. Although, to be fair, part of that is true among most fields. The military is like that, and we've talked about that on the show, where that's actually becoming a huge problem. They've actually been talking about that since the 90s. Articles popped up saying, question, do we have a warrior class? Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting because when you start creating dynastic ambitions like that, like we were saying, incentives, right? Look, I'm a firm believer that humans are animals that respond to incentives, right? I think it's hard to deny. Most living things are.
Yeah, I mean, you promised us some cool swag for coming on your show today, so I'm waiting for it.
I know. Well, I'm going to force you guys to listen to something because I'm pretty darn sure this gentleman will not copyright strike us. This is just a short little, we're obviously going to pause and interrupt it, right? But here's one of my very favorite YouTube commenters that has ever existed, and his name's Razor Fist. He has a strong tendency to tell things like it is. This is a 3-year-old video in which he talks about the origins of the FBI and the various reasons that we should get rid of it. Again, this was 3 years ago, so update it with current stuff now. I bring this up because naturally, all by itself, I had seen this at the time, but YouTube just kind of propped this up to the top of my timeline, which means I think various people might be diving into it and giving it an algorithmic boost all these years later. Let me turn it up, gentlemen, and then let's listen for a bit.
You may have noticed I've not lingered on the convoluted minutiae of the Mueller-Cohen cabal, not least of which because the rapidity of the eternally evolving details means I'll scarcely utter the words before a freshly crafted fucking lie has suddenly supplanted it, though I may address a specific allegation or two in the weeks to come. But I will say this, regardless of the result, for the liberty-minded among us, one immutable fact has come screaming into focus. Whatever the long-term implications, it's been abundantly clear since mid-2016, at least for some of us far earlier, that the FBI, as an organization, is not only inexorably corrupt, but has far outlived its original mandate, and is long the fuck overdue for dissolution.
Now, this is the one part that I could get copyright struck for because he has the license to this song and I do not.
In Milton Friedman's own words, nothing is so permanent as a temporary government program. Which brings me to the subject of today's rant, an emergency agency initially invented, at least in its present configuration, as the FBI after 1935, to address the Prohibition-era Wapacost in the streets of Chi-Town. Though theoretically ephemeral in nature, like all government agencies, the FBI has proven uniquely resourceful in manufacturing reasons and rationales to continue to fucking exist. And so it subsists at the Fed's fierce insistence, an organization not even a century old, that we nevertheless now presume should do so in perpetuity. Look, no one needs a third leg, unless of course you're Tommy Lee, and growing one is a great way to get it cleaved the fuck off, because redundancy isn't an evolutionary cul-de-sac, it serves no purpose, and if it gets infected, it can take your life too. And here's the thing, folks, the FBI specializes in fucking redundance. Drug busts? Hello, ATF. Terrorism, high homeland security, gang wars, arson, fucking litter bugs. You bet your bulging ass there's either a local or federal alphabet agency for all of it. Which leaves, what? Drug lords? I already said that. Isn't that what the ATF is for? E-fraud? Well, I agree in the age of the internet we require at least minimal policing of phishing and fucking fraud. In my experience, the FBI don't give the faintest fuck about your online identity theft. No matter how egregious and sweeping the online fraud, the IC3 Internet Crimes Division of the FBI couldn't give a fiddler's fuck about your online privacy breach, unless, of course, the perpetrator's last name happens to be Escobar or Trump.
Again, this was 3 years ago. But I do want to comment and just back him up here. I know for a fact this is true because I've actually reported a confirmed crypto scam to the FBI, presented them with internal documents of that scam during a time at which crypto scams were a big thing in the news, and it would have actually propped them up. And what did I get in response?
Nothing.
No. I got a letter asking me not to contact them about this in future, and if they wanted any more about it, they let me know.
FBI don't want closed cases. They want pelts on the wall. They subsist in an organizational vacuum where advancement hinges on political utility and the illusion of effectuality. And as for the day-to-day policing shit most folks fucking think the FBI does, well, frankly, most of that shit's already performed by the U.S. fucking Marshals. I repeat, there is literally not one function of the FBI that is not already performed by ICE, the USSS, DEA, CPB, USCP, ATF, USMP, NPS, DHS, BIAP, FAA, and the IRS, or a couple dozen other governmental organizations, which really leaves the jackboots and empty suits with one defense of the fibbers in the FBI. It's a central communication hub for local law enforcement. If we axe their asses, we lose our entire investigative database. To which I can only inquire, do you know any fucking cops? Do they seem particularly buddy-buddy with a bureau to you? Fuck, half the time your glorious goddamn information super hub gets commandeered by drug kingpins who buy FBI agents to warn them when they're being investigated. Fuck's sake, we live in an age where they want to regulate 3D printers because some goof with a gun fetish might print a pistol that fires precisely once. But we leave the FBI, an organization with a confirmed history of being reverse engineered.
Well, I just have to say, of all his takes in this video, that one aged like fucking milk. Because whole boy, are 3D guns a lot more capable than that now. 3 years ago, do you guys remember that? 3 years ago was the Liberator. And
it's pretty wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now everybody's 3D printing their Warhammer 40K sets.
Well, yeah, no, that's happening. That's happening also for that is gonna start happening for Mech Warrior stuff here pretty soon too. But we can talk about that another time. Gentlemen, that's probably enough of his glorious rant. But comments, thoughts, concerns. I mean, I think we can agree that he's right on some things, and like I said, wrong on some others.
Well, I think his general thread is spot on. To quote somebody else that we listen to occasionally, he's not wrong. I mean, I think the American public would be shocked, surprised, and amazed at the number of federal law enforcement agencies that are out there. I mean, we know about the Bureau, we know about the ATF and the DEA and the Marshals Service, but there's at least a dozen or so more that are out there. And the Federal Protective Service, which supposedly guards the federal office buildings. My favorite is the Railroad Retirement Board Police Force.
Well, there's that, and the railroads themselves also have a federalized agency that can share information that's separate from the retirement police force.
We have the IRS, obviously, that has been in the news here the last week or so.
Oh boy.
We have all the cabinet departments, everything from state on to whatever, pick your poison, has its own internalized police force.
Mhm.
And it's terrible. The Pentagon itself has its own police force.
Mhm.
And of course, these guys love to dress all like, oh, I'm Hondo from SWAT, plus 400 pounds, but it's okay. Let me see your badge there, young man. So,
Fort Meade has its own ninja strike force.
Oh
oh,
God.
good Lord. Yeah, the NSA strike force. Yeah, I got it. Like, hang on, we're on the phone. We're calling somebody. But yeah,
Those
it's
gates have to be guarded, right?
Oh
yeah.
God.
And of course, and then there's my old agency. They have their own. I don't want to say law enforcement, but a force that has lethal authorities. So yeah, there's a remarkable amount. You know, People, if you're ever traveling to Georgia, and you just like, hey, what do we go to the seashore in Georgia? We're going to go to Hilton Head Island. Take a slight small detour to Brunswick, Georgia, the old Navy blimp base there, and there's the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, and hang out at a place called Pam's. Pam's is the cop bar right outside the main gate, which is where all the students go to get shit faced and show off their their cool guy training. And actually, it's a really cool bar because the inside is like a museum full of patches and paraphernalia and things like that from every law enforcement agency in the U.S., mostly federal, but also some state and local, and some international ones. Um, this is where the Border Patrol guys get trained. Secret Service guys get trained, both the uniformed and non-uniformed versions of the Secret Service. Uh, the Financial Crimes Center people out of Treasury, FinCEN, get trained there. It's remarkable. Um, and I know this because I went there for 2 weeks of training, which I'm never quite sure why I got there, but it was a cool vacation for 2 weeks. Um, I was shocked. You go into their little shopette that they have, their little 7-Eleven version store on post, and you can buy mugs, raid jacket, at least at that time, raid jackets, and all sorts of other paraphernalia from every single federal law enforcement agency that exists, and like, wow, I never knew this one existed before. It it's remarkable,
So it's
and
it's
all
like
these
those
people.
it's like those shops outside of boot camp, Adam.
Right.
Yeah, but you go there, and remember, all these people have authority carry weapons. They're all trained in long guns, M4s, M16s. Pick your poison. Um,
Well, and judging by annual ammunition budgets, and having
right.
been an instructor and knowing how many rounds you put down range for that amount of money, I can tell you, oh boy, do they train with them. A lot
Well,
more than your local police do. Let me tell you that much. Oh
well,
boy.
that's true. But me and a guy from first group went and watched them at the range, just because, hey, we're hearing gunfire, so you advance to the sound of the guns, right? And we're watching these guys going, oh my God, no wonder you guys can't
Well,
shoot straight. I mean, you know, and of course the instructors are all like, well, I retired as an E5 out of the U.S. Marine Corps. I was a
well,
and
if you're doing a shit job, then you're doing a shit job.
Which is why they work as shooting instructors at Flat Tick, right?
Yeah.
It's
yeah, yeah. Well, and I think that the funniest thing is like we're just kind of doing, I can't quite raise my eyebrow that high anymore, but so we're out doing PT one day because it's like, fuck, this is boring, and I gotta run the alcohol out of my system so I can replenish this evening at Pam's. Um, we're running on this really nice track that they have, and we're just wearing generic running clothes, nothing neon, nothing weird, nothing whatever. We have one of those Border Patrol DIs, lack of a better word, come out and try to brace us. How dare we wear non-regulation PT gear on the Fletsy track.
Oh.
We're like, oh yeah, we're just like looking, and of course he's expecting us to assume the position of attention or something, approximating that, and we're just sort of standing there with our hands on our hips, like, who the fuck are you, and why are we listening to you, and why are you interrupting my cardio, dude? It just made him madder and madder until we finally told him that, hey, we're here for this special 2-week course, and if you have a problem, call the center director for the whole post there, and we're here at his behest. So in other words, bite me. Yeah, it made us a lot of friends. I tried to buy him a drink the next the next night at Pam's, and he rejected it. So fuck him. So, anyways, the point is people, you do not realize, you can't even begin to imagine how many federal LEO organizations there are out there, and how many people and a lot of these people do not go through the same level of hiring processes um, that we'll pick on the marshals, who I consider the most professional of the federal law enforcement agencies. The psychological thing, or the non-uniform Secret Service guys. I mean, hey, you're breathing, you got a pulse, cool.
Yeah,
you can.
I was gonna say, forget the hiring standards. They don't have the pedigree to try and attract people. There's no mystique about these other agents. People don't know they exist. How are you gonna get somebody to who's high caliber, who's gonna come up and I'm gonna be a part of the Department of Ag's Armed Services Committee?
You're absolutely. They actually do have a wonderful armed forces. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, and these and they make up for their small penis syndrome by carrying their weapon, and they intimidate that way.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's the thing, is like there's a huge. I remember. So once upon a time, my buddy Mike was in the Camp Pendleton low security break. Right, we had to keep bringing him in and out for dental surgery as he was getting out processed. Everything worked out for the best for Mike. He saw enough combat, had a Purple Heart, that they overturned his general under other than honorable discharge to an honorable discharge, like within the month that he got out. So like when he said to the judge, like, you sucked my cock, like, pardon my word, he got to win still, even though he got maxed out on the sentence. So he this guy that was like my fellow runner was like talking to one of the MPs who was running the door and all that, and like this guy was a motor T guy attached to a SIGINT unit in the Marine Corps, and he was like, this guy who really wants to be a cop after he gets out of the military, and he's like talking to the brig guard about how cool it is to be an MP in the Marine Corps, right? And like that guy's like, he's like at one point he just gets frustrated. This MP stands up and he just like lays into him. He's like, you're gonna be that local cop that's constantly messing with people all the time, and like just like totally bodied him, kicked him out of the brig. He basically pulled his perm allowance to be a chaser and all that stuff, and like just really like absolutely humiliated him. The guy got in trouble with the command because he got kicked out. Like, how do you get kicked out of the brig, right? And so, but I at that time I was like still brand new to the Marine Corps, and I was very naive about this stuff, and I realized like most cops I know were like cool dudes, right? And like come to realize I like just grew up in like a good area, place where most people who were cops were like halfway decent guys. And you see this just imagine like the regular beat cop that they kind of think, he's kind of an asshole, but he's not really smart enough to be dangerous. Now find people who are like smart enough to be dangerous and have like huge egos. That's what happens for these things. I remember. So I went to school in New York City. I took a class on the history of espionage. It was taught by a former Soviet diplomatic service guy who clearly worked for the KGB First Division. He was in Tehran during the revolution. Then went to the Soviet-Afghan War, and he ended up becoming like captain or major in that thing. So about a third of the class were actually FBI agents who were doing, or FBI agents or FBI analysts, both
Right.
for his class. And one class, he was got in an argument with one of them who was talking about the morality and ethics of intelligence collection, and and he kicks her out of the class because it was 15 minutes of debate, and she just refused to acknowledge his point as the professor, and he's a Russian, and he just doesn't have patience for that. So he made her sit outside the classroom, which was really funny. Anyway, so afterwards, he's like, I want a drink. So he grabs up all of us, veterans, U.S. veterans, and we go to like this terrible bar down the street. And so he's like, we're gonna have vodka, and he asks the guy at the counter, do you have pickles? And so of course he does, because they serve burgers, so we have vodka and pickle chips. And he's like, this is what I wanted after I got out of Afghanistan. This is the first thing I had when I got back to Uzbekistan. And so we start talking. He's like, all these guys who are like federal agents who come into my class for whatever reason are always the stupidest people with the stupidest opinions I've ever heard, because they all think they're right all the time. He's like, I was there in Tehran. Like, I know what it takes to do this stuff. And like, he couldn't believe himself that these are the people who, the Soviet Union lost to. But at the same time, it's like you see like these kinds of like malignant, narcissism, megalomania things really do permeate even into federal law enforcement. And then now these people have enormous power, and that's the thing is it's like not enough psychological screening, not for extracting the right people, and excessive amounts of power to do insane shit.
Yep.
Now,
exactly.
And there's like a valid argument in like the pure counterintelligence side that like you kind of have to have amoral people who are willing to kind of like break the rules a little bit to like go after other spies. But that's like such a small faction of the FBI. Most of the time they're like tracking down papers like that happened in the Mar-a-Lago thing. That's the thing that's insane to me is like the things that you would expect the FBI to do to go after gangsters and drug traffickers and sex traffickers and spies are the things that they're going to look for fucking napkins with scribbled note on it, on the back of it. And that's the thing that people should be frustrated and annoyed by, is the disproportionate use of police power for clearly something that should have been negotiated for in a more appropriate
a subpoena issued. The attorney would have provided all this stuff. Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Well, hey, Adam, just to let you know, I am married to a retired counterintelligence officer, and so I don't think she's amoral at all.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm not saying that.
No, I'm busting your chops only because I can. But
speaking of busting chops and amoral shitheads.
No.
One of my favorite memers spiced this up right quick. And I have to say, bravo. You guys get the reference, right?
Yeah, it's the Bill Clinton
yeah.
photo in Epstein's ward.
God, it's just a twisted Ouroboros is what it is. It's all connected.
It really is, though. And that's the disturbing thing about Washington. Is
incestuous.
Well, very much so. I mean, and not in the I'm screwing my sister thing or my brother, but it's people in either the administration or in the legislative branch are married to somebody who's in the media,
yes,
or in one of the think tanks type of thing, and it's remarkable. And then you have people like my favorite troll of all Washington trolls, David Ignatius, who shows up at all the finest functions to schmooze all the the finest people and take all the right party drugs, whatever, and do the whole Hotel California thing, to get that next Pulitzer Prize scoop thing. And he's dumber than a fucking box of rocks, people. I'm telling you, but
Well,
he knows how to stroke egos and how to elicit information. I mean, he's a great intelligence officer, just working for the wrong side.
Speaking of slimy, greasy, scoundrelous pieces of shit,
We're
let's
going to talk about Joe.
We're going to talk about them broadcasting the real reason behind what they're doing today, or what they think they're going to get out of this. Mark Elias. Oh, Mark Elias.
God.
Where to start with Mark Elias? Who wants to do it? Can we do a primer on how unbefucking-leavably fucked this individual is?
Please don't, because him and his partner in crime, Bradley Moss, are like, terrible.
Unbe-goddamn-leavably terrible individuals. We'll just, you guys can, we'll leave it to you to
just
do
leave
your
it
own
at
research. But let's talk about what they got into today. So, U.S. Code 2071, concealment removal or mutilation generally. He's trying to say essentially that if they found that he mishandled classified documents, that means he could be disqualified from holding any office in the United States.
Oh my God.
I have heard I've heard a lot of interpretations of this. The one that I trust the most is, the actual requirements for being president are laid out in the Constitution. You cannot supersede those requirements. This is not in them. You cannot, by statute, overturn the requirements of the Constitution. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, I mean that's true. It's one of those things that just won't be really litigated, right? Well, the thing is too, it's the reason why all this is being thrown out there and why this is important is because it's building the case that President Trump cannot run for president again. It's the delegitimization of anything to do with him, beyond the actual whatever the reason the FBI wanted to do the raid for.
Right.
It's and this is there's
I'm gonna pause real quick, and folks, remember, this is the kind of stuff I talk about when I say that the people that are this high up and playing at this high level of game never have just one reason behind their actions. If they've only got one reason, they'll wait until they find a few more. Go ahead.
That's right. And it's like there's the politicization of law enforcement, which is what we kind of already talked about, but it's the never letting a good crisis go to waste, right? It's like, for example, you had legitimate reasons during the Cold War to be worried about Soviet infiltrators at the very highest level of government, because there was Soviet infiltrators in very high levels of government.
Yep.
During the Cold War, though, we also purged a lot of the old China hands. We purged the Arabists, all these experts on these places because of political reasons, right? People who had less than savory goals in mind took advantage of Red Scares to purge their enemies. These are just the more famous examples. It's happened multiple other times in other different circumstances. And this is luckily, there hasn't been that much of it since the Trump got out of office. It was expected to be way worse than it really has happened. But it's because it's the Trump derangement syndrome, right? They're going after Donald Trump himself over everybody else, over anybody else, right? So much so that the January 6th committee was willing to listen to Jared Kushner of all people, right? Google Jared Kushner's dad and just realize how insane of that prospect that is. And this thing is
hold on, wait, we're not kidding, chat. There's 35 of you here. I'm gonna give you 10 seconds to go tippity tap. Who is Jared Kushner's dad? Just go do that and type what you see in the comment section here.
right.
just so we're all on the same page. Go ahead, Scott. Or sorry, not Scott, Adam.
Oh man. So like,
Oh, hey, that's why I said I gotta say hi, Scott, because Scott's in the chat. Hi, Scott.
hello, Scott.
Hi, Scott.
Scott, you're welcome. I just figure you're busy, so
Right.
And we
Yeah.
figured you actually had to work for a living, Scott.
yeah.
I guess Ron and I have to go on your show tomorrow morning. That means since we're
Oh
doing this
Jesus! I mean,
God.
it's. Have you seen the number of people he's going to have? It's going to
It's
be
tomorrow's
like
a
it's going to
packed
be like
house.
old Mother Hubbard.
Yeah, I don't.
Like this-
To be very honest, I would love to have you guys on tomorrow. I think we're gonna have to push you guys to Monday, because holy shit, do we have guests the next couple of days, guys? Let me just take a second with 34 people here. Just pimp out. Go follow Future Conflicts. We've got some good guests the next couple of days. We've got Don Shift, who's a current sheriff, we'll just say, in the Southwest, and we'll leave it at that because he's a sheriff's deputy. And he's working, and so he publishes under a nom de guerre, I believe they call that, dawn shift, because he actually does work the dawn shift. Anyways, so yeah, we've got and then Canon Hotep, who you guys know, and Friday we've got. Actually, I'll leave Friday's announcement till tomorrow on the show. So you guys be there tomorrow morning for the show. How about that?
And while we're waiting, take this time to like, subscribe, and share on all socials that you actually use. So for all shows.
I'll just snipe tomorrow from the bleachers there, Watcher.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Hunch, who's also sniping from the bleachers right now, wants to. Sorry about that.
Anyways, Charles, Jared Kushner, the spawn of Charles Kushner, was believed as a credible witness by the January 6th committee, which is like the peak insanity, right? And so,
stop, because I have to interject here with what the chat just said.
The kind of things that impact people, and when you have like this kind of obsessive ideological motivation for things, bad people take advantage of it to do bad things, and stupid people take advantage of it to do stupid things. So you're at this juncture where there's a whole larger consequence to anything the FBI has done vis-a-vis Trump that impacts all sorts of things, like it prejudices the January 6th committee, for example, if it wasn't, which it's already prejudiced, right? Like it prejudices any sort of thing regarding the election. It creates all sorts of problems for it. It it impacts business for it, because Mar-a-Lago is a club. It's a business. People go there for recreational activities, and they have memberships that they pay dues for. These are things that have real life consequences that will be used by people who have less than noble goals, whether they're right or wrong in their goals.
Very true. Let's also get into real quick that something Hunch Dirty Roofer says. So there's Jared Kushner and his despicable father, but there's also Chris Christie and that whole mess, who is apparently the prosecutor in all this, who was literally invited to Trump's children's wedding.
Yeah.
Gee, that's a little fucky. No?
Well, it's weird. Like Chris Christie was one of the few prosecutors that was willing to actually go after Charles. Probably, well, I won't speculate too much online why, but and then somehow he got brought under heel. So, very, very weird things it happened with regards to the Kushner clan.
Someone must have threatened his eclair supply.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm not a big Chris Christie fan.
Neither am I. And
not
I
here.
am an Eclair fan, though.
Say again.
I am an Eclair fan, though.
Oh, same. You can't beat a chocolate eclair not with a stick. So here's the word on the street, folks. So there's 2 tweets by Jack Posobiec that I want to pop up and share here. And the first is this. Apparently, And by the way, I have found that Jack tends to have pretty credible sources thus far. There are some things he said that are unverifiable, right? But so far, the things that he has said in a lot of cases that I've been able to verify have all turned out to be pretty accurate. And this one is that Biden is now scrambling to tell all of the deep blue and on members of Congress and probably the Senate not to spike the football over the Trump raid, which they've already started doing, by the way. Which is going to make moderates turn off even further. Basically, I think somebody responded. Right? Yeah, right here. Yeah, but very concerning is this tweet, which is if you spent any time studying Venezuelan, Cuban, or Middle Eastern or post-Soviet politics, you probably know what's coming next.
Yes, and it scares the shit out of me.
Yep. Oh yeah, Hunch. Sorry, Hunch. Before we get into that, Hunch corrected me. It is Chris Christie. They were not eclairs. They were cannolis. I should know better.
Disavowed.
What's a cannoli between a bridge and whatever? I mean, come on.
A bridge and a beach.
I'm just waiting for Chris Christie to do Weight Watchers commercials, and then I know he's been rehabilitated.
Oof. Oof. Well, I think more
okay,
likely,
never mind.
I think more than likely what you're going to see is him doing some CRT white privilege commercials, but we'll see what crowd he ends up coming out of this tumble in.
Yeah, him and Nikki Haley.
Yeah. So,
never mind.
Well. Now, yeah, that's what we were talking about, PD. Go ahead.
Can we segue to what we started to sort of allude to? So,
yeah.
We know what comes next. I mean, if you don't know what comes next, people, look at your frickin' history books, and look what happened after Stalin consolidated power. Assassinations, mass arrests. I mean, they're setting the stage. The DOJ's already put out the you've probably seen on social media the FBI thing about these are the symbols of right-wing extremism. Every Revolutionary War flag that your history teacher used to teach you about, from the "Don't Tread on Me" to the Betsy Ross flag, to all the other ones. All these are suddenly become MVEs, militia violent extremists, and that's what we're all going to become. We've moved up from clutching and onto our Bibles and guns in West Virginia to deplorables, to now we're MVEs, and this is not a good thing because they're setting the stage for I don't know what.
Look, I can tell you what, and I'll say it out loud. They are very, very, very clearly said. Look, there's a tweet that I saw the other day that absolutely reflects my sentiment on the subject. The degree to which modern media is now reflecting the tone and content of Hutu Power Radio is shocking. They are preparing for the same thing.
Yeah. It is.
Here's the deal, though, folks. A lot of people are asking, and I've heard this a lot, but how could it be so dangerous? We've clearly seen that they're screwing up so badly and they're losing their grip on power. And that is exactly why they are so dangerous. That is precisely why this is generally the turning point in most really bad stories, is because the old power that is currently entrenched and threatened and is flailing in a modern world where the old tools that they used to use to control people are no longer working, has but one reliable solution left:
violence. Yeah, and it's not going to be good. And and all these people that yesterday reacted to the Trump raid with oh, we've crossed the Rubicon, it's Civil War number 2, to the barricades, blah blah, we're going to storm the Bastille. Unless you people have been to Bosnia, Kosovo, Iraq, Afghanistan, and seeing what happens in a civil war between people of the same country, you have no frickin' clue. It is the most uncivil of wars there ever is. The atrocities, the hatred, the it no. If you want to go there, count me out, please. Just leave me alone. But it's it's a terrible, terrible thing to contemplate. And I'm not advocating for some sort of, like kumbaya moment of reconciliation, but Jesus Christ, think about what you're saying and think about and think
Well, and
before
think
you
about
start
this.
going this way.
And think about this, and I'm not advocating one way or the other. I am simply giving you viewers information, and I'm running it past two very credible people who can turn and say, "Watcher, you're full of shit," or they could nod and say, "Yeah, I think you got a pretty good point there," right?
Shit, is there somebody behind me again? Damn it.
Look, guys, the
Well, I'm just
establishment.
warning the audience. That's all.
The establishment was unhappy about Trump until a certain point. There was one very, very specific thing Trump did that sent them over the edge. And I could pinpoint it for you. I don't know the exact day, but if I searched, I could find the exact day for you, because there was one particular speech in which he had started doing this. He had got a new campaign manager who had told him to listen to the things that they are shouting at you. And if you hear one that sounds good, maybe say it back. And that's how we got stuff like build the wall, right? But there was another phrase, there was one that he said that sent the entire cathedral over the edge.
Lock her up.
Lock her up. That was when they lost it. I'm telling you right now, that is when it went from, ha ha, this is funny. If he takes over, he's going to delay what we're doing by a few years, but oh well, to, oh my God, destroy him and anything like him.
Yeah, and you know what? In 4 years, what did he fucking do? I'm sorry.
Nothing. He did nothing.
Nothing. I mean, that.
Look, he hired me.
Well, yeah.
Well, we're talking about on this front. That wasn't
There
your
we go.
job.
There we go. Adam's going to storm the barricade. But no, I mean,
didn't mean it.
I mean,
he didn't mean it. It was a political campaign slogan. He didn't mean it. He didn't mean it even more so than he didn't mean a lot of the other things that he said. He meant to rattle a cage, maybe.
Well, he did. But the thing is I think once he won, he's like that little dog that chases the car down the road
and doesn't know what to do when he catches it.
And grabs it by the bumper and goes, "All right, I got you now. Now what do I do with it?" And I mean, the clue that everything was going to be like, oh, what the hell? Who was his first chief of staff in the White House? Who remembers that? Come on, Adam. Reince Priebus.
Yeah.
Priebus, yeah.
Yeah. Who was? I mean, oh my God, what? A total rhino toady, part of the Uniparty, and like Donald. I mean, I kept jumping up and down, raising my hand, and a bunch of us, like, hey, we believe in what you're trying to do. We're going to overlook your personal foibles and your idiosyncrasies, which you need to do, people, if you're going to, because if you're looking for the perfect political leadership, go to church, because then you'll or get a dog. Yeah.
Well, and not even these days, because they'll tell you that some of those pastors are politically reliable. If you
you got to find your right church. And as far as dogs, I'm sorry, if Tactical Beagles is still on here, I don't like beagles because they shed like ever. They shed their weight in dog every day.
See, I've just learned to get used to it. I'm a corgi fan, and those fuckers just shed every goddamn where. But I love them.
Well, but anyways, I'm just saying that Trump, I say this throughout my Twitter timeline, is personnel is policy, and I was asked today on a Twitter space, about, hey, would you support Trump in 2024?
If I can see who he's hiring, if I know for a fact, and
if I know he's learned his lessons, if I know he's learned his lesson about, you got to hire people who believe in your agenda, America first, believe in the Constitution, and are loyal to you, not loyal to, gee, this will make a good memoir when I get out, and I can,
I can grift off
make a
this till
couple
I
bucks.
die.
Exactly. Although, wait, I can do my Malcolm Vance thing.
Well, and speaking of which, gentlemen, this is a perfect time to bring up two tweets. I'd like to. One is a tweet and one's a video. Let's compare the response of two dissimilar individuals to this raid. First, Andrew Cuomo, who tweeted within 3 hours of the raid becoming public that the DOJ must immediately explain the reason for its raid, and it must do more than a search for it must be more than a search for inconsequential archives, or it will be viewed as a political tactic and undermine any future credible investigations and the legitimacy of the January 6th investigations. Real quick, there was no risk of that last part happening because it never had any legitimacy to undermine. But moving forward. To the response of McConnell, which came significantly later, and here I'll just.
What was your reaction to the FBI raid yesterday around?
Because it's already quiet as hell. That's a female reporter asking, what is your response to the FBI raid on Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago?
I'm here today to talk about the flood and the recovery from the flood.
Sir, you were in Western Kentucky in December.
Has there ever been a more contemptible turtle of a man?
Oh no.
No.
I mean,
No, not at all.
I mean, you don't really see that many war turtles walking about anyway. But, so I'll give you my McConnell story. So I was going to one of the grocery stores near where I lived in DC, and I'm walking in, and like they had a mask mandate, but like at this point it was basically optional because no one cared anymore to enforce it. So I'm going to get a Monster Energy drink because I'm, like I'm in my 30s, but I still think I'm in my early 20s. And anyway, so in next to me walks up like Capitol Hill plain clothes, meaning in a suit, police officer. Nothing I think about it. You see them all the time. And right next to him and comes in Mitch McConnell, the war turtle himself, and the rest of his security detail. And he's like, Mitch McConnell's like loudly complaining about having to wear a mask indoors in Washington, D.C. still. Meanwhile, like everybody else in the store doesn't have one on. I'm like, you don't, you can just like take it off. Like what's anyone going to say? Like you can't buy an energy drink or can't buy something here. And he just stares at me, and like then just goes about his business. Doesn't say a single word to me. So that's like how dare you even comment about my mask? So,
I don't know why this has only just struck me right now, but am I the only one who sees a striking resemblance to Jiang Zemin, the Toad himself? I don't know why it only just struck me, but it's something in the neck. It's the way the neck pouch hangs.
So like for those of you who are familiar with Warhammer lore, this is what This is what a slan looks like before they die and are reincarnated. So.
Oh,
Well,
you're terrible.
So it was the first summer in Iraq. We we were still figuring everything out, and Bremer had just showed up to save the day for the Bush administration and Rumsfeld and all. And Mitch McConnell comes in with a CODEL, a congressional delegation, real small because there's still danger in Iraq and everything like it. So he lands at Baghdad International, and it's my job to transport him from the airport to the green zone and everything like that. Well, I'm working with a DSS agent, a State Department security guy, Department of State Security, and we got the Black Hawk crew all lined up, and we got the gunship to escort them the whole 10-minute flight from Bayap to the green zone, and but we gotta put him in protective gear. So so Mitch McConnell is not a very tall gentleman. He's I don't know what 5'5", 5'6", Adam. I mean, he's a pretty slight guy,
Yeah,
and
I
and
was
he
surprised at just how thin he actually is. Like
he's really thin and almost frail looking, but um and he didn't have all his handlers around him to pump him up and infuse him with false machismo type thing. But so we put him in a one of our pieces of shit, vests that we have with all the snap attachments on them. Remember that old style? Oh my god, oh,
yeah, they
ugly,
they stopped
ugly.
giving those to you except for in like boot camp. So
Right. Well, we used it for distinguished visitors because hey, shoot him instead, please. And then we gave him a Kevlar helmet to wear. Well, we only had one size, and it was a little bit bigger than his dome. And now there's Mitch with his glasses, and he's standing there, literally looking like the pathetic kid at the high school dance, waiting to be asked by some ugly chick to go with him to on the dance floor, and he's just standing there waiting for us to finish, getting the rest of the Codell and staffers and what all squared away. And he say, I turn over and look at him. I start to chuckle because I'm going, oh my fucking god, it's Rick Moranis from Spaceballs. It's Big Helmet. It literally was, and and I've never been able to shake that image of him because he looked so small.
Great.
and,
Darth
and
Helmet.
well, he was.
That's
He
fantastic.
really did. No, it really was. It was, and then I saw him another time when he showed up in Afghanistan. He remembered me, and it was, he obviously didn't know that I had laughed at him, but he brought the freshman senators of the current class of 2012, Ted Cruz, Jeff Flake, the senator from Nebraska. I can't remember her name, and a couple others, but. I just remember Ted Cruz and I getting into a major discussion where I basically politely told Ted Cruz that I don't know who backbriefed or briefed you before you showed up here, but you're full of shit, and which of course went over really well, which was probably a career enhancing thing for me,
Well,
and
if you'd have had the right politics yourself, it could have been a career-enhancing move for you.
Well, no, I mean he really was. He basically looked at me and accused me and my agency of running heroin out of Afghanistan, and I made some flippant remark about, well,
What?
geez, we haven't even finished running crack into L.A. yet, but okay, go with that. And McConnell just sort of does one of these numbers like, oh, and Flake just sits there literally like he doesn't know what the fuck's going on. I mean, I'm so glad he was a one-term senator because that dude didn't have two brain cells between him, and it was remarkably scary. Anyways, I digress.
So just because you brought him up,
Flake?
No. A certain individual that Tactical Beagle has been asking me to cover for a few days because of a particular fashion choice that he made. Now that I've got it pulled up, we can end the suspense and we can cover fucking plum-suited Ted Cruz. Fucking checkered plum-suited Ted Cruz. What?
Did I segue for you or what?
I Jesus Christ. Tactical Beagle, I didn't believe it when you said this the other day. I think we were on the council and you said this and I said I needed to see this. I was wrong. I thought I needed to see this, and now I wish there was an unsee button on my computer rig. Who told him this was a good idea? That's what I want to hear. But all right, there's not much more to be said about that. What I really wanted to bring up is this. We have a different ex-CIA agent who is all dressed up to go on CNN and told them something they might not have been prepared to hear about those, quote, air quotes, classified documents.
Deputy Director of the National Security Branch at the FBI. Tell us about the high bar for the FBI to execute such an unprecedented search.
Oh, hold up. Hold up. We can all laugh about that real quick.
All right, I just want to say, I know this isn't like very couth to comment on people's plastic surgery, but when women who are clearly middle age have enough plastic surgery, their faces look like a middle-aged man, not a woman. Look at all three of their faces. They all look very similar.
Very similar.
Even though the two on the right are clearly augmented, in the with surgical machinations. And I just think it's funny because it's like it doesn't make you less older looking. I don't know. It's very not graceful. That's just what I have to say.
Well, and it's interesting you would mention that because who else looks a whole like there are a couple of individuals, but this one comes to mind who also bears like a striking resemblance to these people. Someone quite a bit older, a gentleman who also I would say probably has had quite a bit of work done, but just bears some of the same kind of facial marks. And it reminds me of that old saying about pets that look like their owners.
Right.
Anyhow, let's move on with this. Just I'm gonna laugh just momentarily about the ridiculousness of asserting that it would be difficult for the FBI to get a warrant on anybody at this point. Like after what we found out about what they've gone through to get warrants on multiple individuals throughout the years that have had absolute it's utterly laughable to still try and prop that up. But we'll persist.
Boy, high bar would be a sort of low bar in this investigation. The bar has to be beyond whatever we've seen before. Let me give you a couple different perspectives, Pamela. First of all, people who don't deal with classified information, I had the highest security level, security clearance you could get in government, don't realize how common it is that is classified information and how much stuff is overclassified. The chance the Attorney General and the FBI Director went in and said, hey, he's got some secret documents down there he hasn't given us, and to ensure that we recover those secret documents, we're just going to go to Mar-a-Lago, I would put that near zero. The characteristic you have to look at here, Pamela, is whether there are secret documents that relate to an ongoing criminal investigation. To get to the bar where you're going to the residence of the former president, classified documents don't get you there. I had them in my house sometimes, inappropriately. It happens all the time. There has to be the additional piece that they have to do with an investigation, and they have to do with stuff that the FBI can't get someplace else. That's all I can figure out, Pamela.
All right, so Caroline, I want to bring you in on the heels of what Phil did.
Boy, she wasn't happy with that answer.
No.
Her face turned.
Right.
I guess Phil Mudd's getting tired of getting called early in the morning to go on CNN.
Yeah, he's probably not coming back.
He's still a fucking hoe. I mean, he's a hoe for the money.
Yo.
And Phil Mudd has situational ethics. He never met a situation that he couldn't try to turn to his advantage. So I'll let it go at that.
Well, they obviously didn't pay enough before that interview. That's the real issue here. The meager fee they're giving him as a consultant is just not getting him by. Yeah, those were all unhappy faces. You're very right.
Well, I couldn't tell on the girl on the right. It was frozen. So
I'm just trying to think what documents would he have in his house that he would be allowed to have in his house. I guess back when he was involved in field operations, technically.
And he did say
classified.
He did sneak in the inappropriately in there. He did sneak that in after he said, I've had documents in my house that were classified inappropriately.
Right. I guess. But I mean, look.
Well, and here's something that I've heard brought up. Classified is a very interesting thing. Classified, let's say that Trump declassified something that because there's all kinds of stuff that is classified you wouldn't even assume is classified, right? Like I have heard it go so far as that like meal plans at the White House are classified because they like to some degree because some sort of adversary might potentially be able to use like what the regularity of some sort of meal in order to try and do whatever, right? Like I've heard all kinds of crazy things that are classified that would make your eyes kind of pop out and go, wait, what? That? Really? Why? But
Because I said so.
Exactly. That's essentially it. That's literally the only like for some of these. That's the only justification is that somebody up top said, "I think that should be classified." Therefore, it is. So, on that premise, remember that literally anybody up that chain of command can stamp that at any point, right? And it can be undone. So let's say that there's something that Trump unclassified, and so he thought, "Hey, that's unclassified." Someone could come along retroactively and say, hey, that used to be classified and now it's unclassified. I'm reclassifying it.
Yeah, like there's the whole like classification shuffle is such a big game. Like this is the thing that people really are gonna miss the point on, and I think you're kind of leading our way to it. Is that like I've met Trump when he was president, right? Like this is not somebody who like really completely comprehend the intricacies of classification markings, right? Like I had a battle.
You're telling me a real estate mogul didn't understand the intricacies of government work that sometimes people who've been there for over a decade don't understand? No.
Right. Like, I mean, like it's even more like, so when I was at the Treasury Department, we were working on something that was, classified, but there's also a non-classified component of it, right?
Yep.
And so like 90% of the work had nothing to do with what we had to do in the SCIF. However, we had certain assistant and undersecretaries who kept wanting to put all the oh snap! Did I just screw up my audio again? So we had a certain assistant and assistant secretaries and undersecretaries who wanted to keep putting things into the SCIF because they're afraid that like it will leak. And it's like we can't do that because there's all this work that has to be done outside of the SCIF because not everybody has our accesses to read Treasury documents on a classified level, right? We have to give things, and so we have to like not do that stuff. But on top of that, like people, just the president has so many servants, right? The president of the United States, like the White House is designed so the president can like literally roll out of bed, roll into a suit and tie, well, if he really needed to, like get dressed up for the day, and like walk 5 minutes to get to his office. Like he doesn't actually have to get to the West Wing to do his work. He has several offices in the East Wing he could pick from. Like he could basically pick a different office every day of the week and still have to work out of in the East Wing, and he still wouldn't exhaust all of his options for office spaces in the East Wing alone. So like you have to have a large staff to attend him, right? And that's what all these courtiers, all these assistants to the presidents do, right? Like, and that's why it's like such a nebulous term. Like everybody in the White House is assistant to the president because like who knows, he might need to go get a newspaper or a cheeseburger for him. That happens, like it's not the fun part of the White House where like it's not the West Wing. Sometimes like
I'm not gonna lie. I'm sorry. Wait, if I got sent on a fucking cheeseburger run by Donald J. Trump while he was in the fucking White House, I'd be laughing my utter ass off the entire time. That would be hilarious to me. I don't know why. That's just God damn it. That'd be great.
Well, here's one of the things about Trump is that he's like one of those people that if you mess up his schedule, he'll get very, very mad.
Yeah.
Right? Beyond whatever normal chaos that gets on. And so he really likes eating the same thing basically for most meals of the day.
Well,
right?
There's a lot of high power people like that. In fact, I think Warren Buffett did a whole like series of articles about like what he eats when there's an up market and what he eats when there's a down market.
Right, but like he likes Donald Trump likes cheeseburgers because especially for McDonald's because it's consistent and it tastes good
And it's clean.
and he and like it all. I mean, it depends on your definition thereof, but and like he like there's like it's an order thing, right?
Yeah.
It's the structure, like because then he won't snack unnecessarily. Then he won't feel like he's waiting all day for dinner, all that stuff.
Makes sense.
It's just like and so so you have these weird things that happen in the place just because the people who have to make decisions have to not have to worry about when they're going to get their next meal, where they're going to be working out of the office,
Right.
where if they have enough meeting space to take meetings into, all this stuff. And there's a reason why there's a bowling alley in the White House. There's a reason why there's a sick gym in both the Eisenhower building, the Eisenhower Overflow building, and the White House itself. Like there's all this stuff. So
Well,
back
I
to
think what you're leading up to is all of
who
those people
packs his stuff for him.
and all those people also handle all classified documents for the most part, right? Like, look, let's not imagine for a moment that Trump spent a whole lot of time concerned over whether this needed to be handled inside of a SCIF or outside of a SCIF, right? Like, let's be very honest about that.
Right, and the White House itself, all the office is basically a SCIF, right? Even though it doesn't look like one. Like, who packs? Like, the reality is the president doesn't pack his clothes when he leaves the office.
He doesn't do
People
anything.
pack the stuff for him, and the first lady probably didn't pack her stuff his stuff for him either. So, there's a lot of random knickknacks that were probably controlled or serialized that they had no idea were being put into boxes.
There you go.
And even napkins, right? Like the napkin thing just blows my mind. It's like notes written on a napkin, right? Is that they have that level of intricate knowledge that these things may or may not exist, and that they have such a desire to control these things when the guy may not even know he has it.
Right.
Like that's the thing is that is incredible. This is also why I think they did this raid when he wasn't in town, right? Because imagine if all of a sudden they said the former president of the United States cooperates with FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago looking for documents, right?
Hey, I gotta pause real quick. I apologize, Harry. We've got a couple of pretty big shot YouTube people. I've noticed that on Twitter and on YouTube, I am followed by people who have significantly bigger followings than me. I like to believe that means I'm spitting out quality content, and I'm just that underground, unheard of talent that everybody likes to listen to. But Harry Zykos here also corrects me. He is a real estate person, and look, I'm not knocking on real estate people, but take it from a guy who had a security clearance. Shit's complicated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you can go through actual classes for it, and I'm telling you, Trump didn't. And if he did go through some kind of classes, it was literally just somebody like, "Here, Mr. President, sit down. I'm going to put some slides in front of you while you eat your lunch." To expect somebody like that to understand documents, like all of this is ridiculous. This is all. Again, like I was saying, this is all discretionary stuff, right? This is all little things that are just in the tiny margins that you could easily sabotage somebody if you're trying to do this by, as Adam said, maybe just making sure that a couple of documents found their way where they weren't supposed to be, or even just by accident, even just somebody packing up really quickly. Hell, I just because it's relevant in my mind has ADD and it came up to it. I always laughed because people back in the Obama days when Trump took over and they were talking about them breaking letters off the White House keyboards, everybody was like picturing that it was like Obama himself or like Obama's kids doing it. I'm like, no, these are like super far down ridiculous political apparatchiks that have spent their entire life in Washington doing all this bullshit. Like
Muffy and Buffy.
God damn, dude.
But would this be a good time to tell you about there I was in the Beast with Donald Trump on January 6th, and I was struggling with him over the control of the steering wheel?
And he threw a burger at the wall, right?
He threw a ketchup dripping burger at the wall. Oh, God.
And I finally sedated him with a double cheeseburger,
Of
but
course,
it was
yes.
all good.
Yeah, no, standard.
But
I mean, with Trump's, it's double
No.
cheeseburgers. With rioters, it's White Claws. Looking at you,
So
Adam.
but Adam brings up a good point. Is the president is like the ultimate. I mean, he people think, well, why doesn't the president make this decision or do this or do that? There's only so many minutes and hours in the day,
Yep.
and his schedule is not his own. Um, and my closest analogy would be I worked for a 3-star general, my last tour in Afghanistan, and I mean every minute of his waking hours and non-waking hours was scheduled and dictated to him. I mean, he literally had to yell at his aide one day and says, "God damn it, I'm."
Uh-oh. 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 Ron's ISP decided to edit him. We'll wait till he comes back. We know where he stopped, which is God damn it.
Yeah. Well, I'll just pick it up and filibuster from here, and it's you know.
Oh wait, hold on. I can see he's back because his face is moving normally now. We lost you at God damn it.
Well, what a good place to lose me at. He said, he wanted to take a shit, and his aide was all freaked out, like, "Oh my God, oh what do I do? Oh, I'm gonna have to rearrange the whole afternoon schedule." It's like, well, dude, it was either this or Commanded Infantry Battalion. I mean, figure, figure pick your poison, and it was just remarkable because I mean, a lot of times he would just call me in late at night into his office, and it would freak out. He would close the door and say, "Yep, yep," and he would just want to talk to me because I had no agenda. I had no career to protect. I had no fit rep to worry about. I mean, I'd literally come out of retirement to work on his staff, and we just talked, and he was like so. It was almost cathartic thing for him to be able to unburden himself because, he couldn't really. He could talk to his aide, or he actually had 2 aides and an executive officer, but of course, they're worried about their career, their next job, their next assignment, and so they don't want to say the wrong things, and so I can see, working for the president, like, oh God, I want to, but hey, at the end of the day, do right by him, and you'll do right by you and the country, instead of that stupid chick that showed up at January 6th and said, "Hi, my book's not quite ready yet to publish, but I want to dish on Donald, and go from there." I mean, like, good Lord, people! I mean, you actually gave her airtime.
Oh, so Mike Cassidy Hutchins' story. So I was like watching it. I'm like, I don't recognize her. I've been to the chief's office enough times that I think I would
should know her. Yeah.
Like, not know her, like
or at least know the face. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
well, after a little bit of digging, come to find out she's lost like 40 pounds for her TV debut. But that evening, a known writer for a very prominent U.S. newspaper calls me and wants to know my opinion off the record of the whole thing. And I'm like, well, I think she's full of shit. And he's like, why do you say that? I'm like, I point out all these like things that make no sense. And he's like, well, we'll see. I'm like, well, I'm just like, if you ask my opinion, I think like it's like I wouldn't write. I would wait till whoever refutes it. And she gets refuted basically within 12 hours of her getting off the stand by the Secret Service and Hirschman, the deputy White House counsel. And I think it's just really fascinating. And like these things, once again, these things feed into the crisis of the FBI deciding to do a raid on the Mar-a-Lago in the middle of this highly politicized committee hearing about an event that is highly politically charged.
Well, and thank you. You've transitioned me utterly perfectly because, gentlemen, as you might know, I am somewhat of a fan of memetics and memetic warfare. I have done a lot of study into kind of how memetics may be used for good. After having seen a lot of how memetics has been used for bad, if I may. Boy, isn't it interesting from a memetic perspective that this raid from the FBI happens against the administration's enemies right after the January 6th committee turns up and says that that sources have started to come out and say that they're not going to recommend charges to the DOJ. And that's all going to fall apart. And so media have started to pratter about that. And then a certain meme came about, gentlemen. A certain meme came about literally from the White House 24 hours before the 48 hours before the raid happened. Do you happen to know what this meme is?
Dark Brandon.
Dark Brandon. So let's talk about this real quick. So let's gentlemen, if you're in the chat and you don't know the I guess etiology would be the word for this. The etiology of this meme starts when the mainstream media tried to project dark MAGA as a thing. This is something that I presume that they shopped just about as long as this man here shopped the ultra MAGA thing that would come shortly after that. But they tried to make dark MAGA happen. And when they did that about 6 months ago, memers took it and said, oh my God, this makes for a fantastic meme universe. Because you see all these superhero things where you have like the normal version of the superhero, but then they re-release it and it's darker and grittier and like, you know what I mean? And so they started doing all of that like grit layer on top of various different memes for Trump, right? So again, the leftists started something, the right took it and made it funny, okay? And then what happened from there? Well, 4chan said, well, what would happen if we made a dark Brandon? And they started experimenting with different ways you could do that, and I guess they settled on this eye patch McCain look that I'm not gonna lie, I kind of dig that. And 4chan has been memeing this for months. They've been making all kinds of dark Brandon style humor. Here. This one's
remorse or fear, and it absolutely will not stop ever. You are dead.
The dude can't even put on his fucking jacket.
Well, and isn't it interesting that a White House staffer who, by the way, let's open this up right here. Just so we're clear, folks, this meme that the White House staffer shared, the one that's got the Reich Eagle in the back of it, let me go find it. That one is directly from 4chan. 4chan made that, okay? Reich Eagle and all, and they started planting imagery like that quite a while ago because if you know your history, you'd understand why that's funny. But moving on from that, let's just say that there is now confirmed to be a 4chan to White House staffer pipeline.
Wow. And that's the thing is that's what they kept trying to say for the Trump admin, but the Biden admin is the real online shitlords after all.
Well,
right?
but they're the ones that got fooled by the shitlords, I think, because I thought here's what I think. I think they were like, oh, they're obviously memeing on us and making fun of us, but we feel justified and right in our action, and so we don't understand how this could be like the funny thing, and so we're going to use this as like a thing because our side will understand it that way.
For sure. I just want to also just like take a moment to
This one. Yeah, is this what you're going to talk about?
Oh no, I was just going to read Maya
Okay, go for
Contreras' bio in her
it.
you just realize just how painfully cringe these people are.
She, hers, voting rights advocate, whip, smart policy, and political analyst. Oh, God.
Like my policy threads, donate below. Thanks. Look at how like clownish this world is, right? Like these are people who pretend to like
See, well, and here's the thing.
run government or
Well,
have a better idea for it.
and she says here, Liz Bryce, is one of the most organic and effective repurposing of a negative slogan I've seen in a long time. Folks, do you know what the image you're looking at? Do you want to know where that came from? This is literal Chinese propaganda. This is literal Chinese propaganda. This came out of a Chinese propaganda newspaper shortly after he was elected.
Amazing.
So
Amazing.
this comes on the back of some dumb bitch trying to say that we won't say who, but some dumb old bitch trying to say that China is the freest country in the world currently. Gee,
I'm sorry,
just,
I gotta go get more vodka. Hang on,
yeah,
what?
there you go.
Yeah, I might do vodka or White Claw run too after this.
Jesus Christ. So let's talk about something that we were talking about shortly before the show, because I think this is the appropriate time to bring it up. Let's talk about the sinification of the world. Now, for those of you unaware, sinification would be the making like unto China of the world. That would be the layman's way of putting that. And we don't necessarily, or at least this is a distinction that I would like to make. It is not necessarily that the entire world has fallen under China's sway. I don't believe that to be true. What I do believe to be true is when you lie down with dogs, you often wake up with fleas. We have, in trying to court the CCP, started to mimic many of their behaviors, thought processes, and political processes.
Yep.
Go ahead, Adam. You expand on it since you're the one who brought it up.
I agree. But this is the thing too, is like it's the whole fake debate, and like I use fake just to be inflammatory, between the CCP and the KMT, the Kuomintang, right? These are two heads of the same coin of a ultra authoritarian, ultra nationalist Chinese philosophy.
Yeah, but one of them had a significantly better Little League baseball team, Adam, and that can't even be argued about.
Right, like one like there one mostly won the debate, the other one mostly lost the debate. But the point is that this is also like the influence of China upon Western history is actually very long. It's just that we don't really notice it because like for a very long time China was decimated by the wars, and then for the most part, slowly rose back to prominence through monetary ways.
Well,
right?
and this is relevant. What war were they truly decimated by, Adam? Or at least the beginning of the century of humiliation, as they so.
Well, I mean, like they say it's the Opium Wars, right? The reality is like these are like the Opium Wars you can view as a kind of prelude to the Chinese Civil War.
Yes.
You should consider it as like one long conflict.
The Opium Wars were a byproduct of a collapsing empire.
That's exactly right.
You don't get the kind of behavior that happened unless you don't have a strong or at least any kind of generalized central authority to be able to fight against it.
That's exactly right. And because China's politics are crazy factionalized, right? It's very
dynastic.
And also still very feudalized.
Yeah.
But so like I'd view like the Boxer Rebellion and all that, and what ended up happening is that who actually won the debate with that stuff? Well, it was actually in a weird way, the people who are anti-imperialists won the debate against the Europeans in China, but it opened up the doorway to the Pan-Asianists, of the Chinese Pan-Asianists, who the Japanese basically created a foothold into, and this is beside the broader conversation, is that China has a lot of money, and they've been using it for a very long time to influence world politics. And now we're starting to see that more often. Like when you see globalization, you have to ask yourself, okay, is it globalized in the way that America benefited, or is it a way that China benefited? Like the thing to put this issue like really in the forefront, be really on the nose with it, is who won the Cold War? The Chinese
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The a non-combatant state won the Cold War,
Right.
and won it without having to sign any of those pesky treaties that Russia did that have really prevented them from progressing in ways that China certainly has not stopped themselves from doing.
Right, and that's the thing is like, what's his name? What was the Soviet defector Golitsyn, who is like
Well,
sort of
we gotta be careful about some of those. By the way, just before you get into that, this brings up something the chat asked way earlier. And PD, I hope you're still around because I think you're the one who asked it. He asked, Adam, it sounds like you may have taken a class from a certain special uncle that we all have, an Uncle Yuri. That
No.
you can't say his name on
No,
YouTube.
I actually could say his name. I would have to look it up.
No. I can say it, but you can't say it on YouTube or Susan gets angry.
No. It's not the Yuri guy. It's You're gonna make me have to look this up sometime.
No, it's okay.
I'll find my class notes because I actually kept them because he was hilarious in his dry way. Like really good, like Russian dad jokes or like something else. Golitsyn, who one of the Soviet defectors from the KGB, who one of the things he did was besmirch Korzeniewski to Angleton, James Jesus Angleton. He said a lot of random stuff, and he probably was engaged in disinformation against the United States, even as a defector. But he made a point that the Sino-Soviet split was probably fake, and in the long run, he was kind of proven right, which was that there's never been a real debate between Moscow and Beijing in a serious way. And so when we see these things, when we see the opiate crisis in the United States, when we see predatory venture capital, private equity in the United States, we see all these really things that didn't exist prior to the mid 90s or maybe even the mid 80s. A lot of this is very much tied to the financial power and the rise of China. And this is the with all this said, the FBI raid, the Trump stuff, the Biden stuff, all this stuff is that we're about to go back to another Cold War, and it's going to be a return to 19th century politics as it was.
Well, to.
I think we're still at the tail end of the halcyon days of things kind of are good. We're still having internal debates over dumb shit in this country.
I see what you mean there. I think China's been in a Cold War with us for over 2 decades.
Well, maybe even over 100 years for all we know. But now the thing is either we become wise and serious once again, or we become clowns. Clownish.
Let's be honest. We become the Ottoman Empire. We become the new old sick man of the world stage.
Ooh.
Oh, I know. It's terrible to think about, Ron, but that is the position we currently occupy.
Well,
that's exactly.
Yeah. I get where you're going with that.
Right.
But
you're right, Adam. I should say it's the trajectory we are on if nothing changes.
I mean, we have a lot more economic powers that we can, we have a lot more economic gas in the tank as far as, internal production and agriculture and things like it, whereas the Ottomans were totally relying on subservient nations and peoples throughout their empire. And
True.
They had So I don't know. I mean, but I get what you're saying.
We've
It's like
got before you get
it's
to
a
this, Ron,
250-year empire, lifespan thing.
well, yeah, but though according to that, I've heard some schedules that we're about halfway in then, because we didn't become an empire until long after we were a nation. Ron, I know that we are impeding on your time, and you don't have much left to go. Before we let you give your piece and finish what you want to say about this topic, I want to implore everybody, please, if you have not done so already, go follow Ron on Twitter. Some of the better takes that I've found in recent days have come from Ron. I quite enjoy his counsel in private chats. He brings some really relevant stuff to mind that you and I might not be tracking. And I'm telling you right now, if you're not currently following him, you are doing yourself a disservice. Twitter is far richer with him on it. All right, Ron, go ahead.
Oh, thanks. I just thought I was just another curmudgeon, that had escaped from the rest home. So it's, but yeah, I mean, I think the I think I said it, back this morning on a Twitter space, where people were prior to me, speakers in this, were talking about, um, we have crossed the Rubicon, you know, and we're, the Fort Sumter moment of Civil War II, yada yada yada. And I go, I don't know that we're quite there yet. I think we've tippy-toed right up to the banks of the Rubicon, and we're kind of looking at the other side. We're trying to figure out, do we go across? Do we turn our back on it? Do we just, go rafting and tubing on the Rubicon? What? But um, again, I just caution everybody that, hey, I mean, Civil War II is not like some sort of thing where, you know, the right wing guys are going to, bash the crap out of the leftists or whatever, and we're all going to, victoriously ride into, DC, and reestablish the republic. Yeah, it's not that simple. It's not that easy, and it will
Boy, it'll be
literally be.
messy.
It'll be messy. It'll be neighbor against neighbor, brother against brother, families against families, communities against communities, rural against urban, and it will be effing ugly. I mean, the war crimes will be off the charts.
Well,
So
and let's put this out there right clear. The people who start it will look with how much. I put it to a lot of friends this way. What I'm most concerned about is that we appear to be on top of a wound spring that has taken just about all it can take before it's going to snap. There is so much
Right.
pressure in this spring wound that if we could just unwind just a bit, we might be okay. But when it snaps, there is going to be a lot of kinetic energy going in just about every direction for reasons you can't even currently imagine.
and the scary thing is, I mean, among the many scary things, is that we do not have leaders within our country, political, economic, religious, social, that are able to guide us to a safe zone, a better outcome. It's going to take a while till we get there. So let's just take a breath and be careful. And again, I would just commend everybody to read Adam's um, missive today that he posted in his thing, Muzzle Velocity. Please do.
I appreciate
And thanks, Hunch. I am not the curmudgeon. I'm just one of many, but I'm going to curmudgeon school during the day, so it's okay.
Hey, PD.
Thanks, Watcher.
No, thank you, Ron. We really appreciate you being here. PD, before Ron goes, I just want him to see this. He says, "Good point, Ron, but this latest Interest Reduction Act includes some of the same WF Green New Deal mandates and reductions on farmers and ranchers." Look, I get that, buddy.
Oh.
Look,
I get that.
Look. Here's what. Look, and I'm gonna say this, and then Ron can correct me if I'm wrong, and then he can dip out. But what we are saying is, if you understand the historical metaphor of the Rubicon, right? The whole point of not crossing the Rubicon with weapons is that that at that point it cannot be undone. Your intentions are very clear. And what we are saying is, no, folks. This is kind of like wading halfway into the Rubicon with your armor on and your sword on one side. We are second cousin to a 5-alarm fire, but we are not there yet.
I certainly hope not. Yeah, I hear what I read what PD's saying, and I mean that whole Inflation Reduction Act. God, I love the propaganda that they say it
God
exactly what
damn
it's
it.
not.
Yep.
And but I mean, so I guess smarter people than me have been reading it, and they go, so this whole billions for electrical vehicle things, which is the whole one of the latest pushes from this regime, is well, you're supposed to get all these tax credits for it. Well, you're not going to get any of the tax credits because none of the materials, the raw materials that build the EVs, are domestically sourced.
Well,
The
and
lithium, and things like that.
none of the ones that apply that the program applies to are made in the U.S. Not a one of them.
Exactly. So I mean, it's you got to wonder who's going to reap the money here, besides Hunter. So it's like whatever.
Well,
Anyways, it's. I mean, I'm amazed at how quickly this bill passed through Congress. There were no hearings. There was no real debate. I mean, the only debate was really via social media, and it was pushed through just like the last several ginormous spending bills that we've seen from the Biden and the Obama regimes. Starting with the Affordable Care Act, and keep on going. And it's just remarkable that we haven't learned our lesson. And the Republicans in Congress, both the House of Representatives and the Senate, are um, they're part of the same grift. I mean, folks, if
feckless.
if you haven't realized that yet, it it's election season. And if we all our congressmen are up for reelection or election, and you need to go participate. You need to ask them hard questions and watch them squirm, and don't let their little pencil neck staffers usher you out of the room when you ask a hard question. Be polite, but be firm, and think ahead of time what your question is to embarrass them, and make sure you have somebody recording that so you can post it on YouTube or on Twitter or wherever. But if you have a senator that's up for re-election, ask them some hard questions about why they're doing this, and don't let them bullshit you. I mean, here in South Dakota, we have a sole congressman, and I overheard him in a conversation with another constituent. And this was right after the vote for the original Ukrainian military aid relief package, whatever it was. What was it? How many billions of dollars? I can't remember.
40 or
And
so.
yeah, some outrageous sum. And she's asking, so why'd you spend this? Why'd you vote yes for all this money for this when you never voted to support the wall or this or that for President Trump? Because he's supposedly a Republican. And he looks right at her and he goes, "You just don't understand." Well, I don't know much about politics, folks, but I'm here to tell you that if a political leader pointed his finger at me and told me I don't understand, I go, you know what? You don't have my vote anymore. And I'm going to make sure that other people know how you talk to me and how you addressed me and things like that. So, people, we get the government we voted for. And if we don't like what we have, we need to vote for a better government. And so do your part. Get involved. Don't just sit on this effing YouTube space here and listen to Adam and me and watch her, bitch about this and pontificate about that and advertise for that. Get out and get involved. Go to your school board meetings. Go to your city councils. Go to your county commissions. Go to your other supra government agency meetings. It's all a matter of public record. Get involved. Ask questions. Just God, otherwise the republic will not be saved. You gotta be involved to help save the republic. We can't do it alone, the three of us. Rant over.
Thank you, Ron. I appreciate it.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm just gonna give you this before you go off. Clever.
Yeah.
All right.
True.
Thank you, Ron. We'll see you soon. I
Right.
think. You have a good one.
We'll see y'all soon. Thanks, guys.
Have a good night,
Thank you
Ron.
all.
All right. right, Adam.
Hi, Watcher.
It's just you and me, man. It's time
I know,
to
just the two of us.
time to gay it up, my friend.
Yep. All right. Well, I do have to go to bed at some point, so you know.
I hear you. You, by the way, feel free to dip out at any time. Folks in the chat, we're probably going to go for another few minutes just because there's a couple of things I'd still like to discuss, but we've gone through most of this stuff, right? There's just a few more fine points that I had noted. Let me see if I can dig those up for a couple more minutes. And then I'm probably going to go hang out with my wife for a few minutes, guys, and then I'll probably start up a stream for Red Dead 2, because I noticed that Episode 1 of my Red Dead 2 replay has been by far significantly my most watched content, and that was right before it took off. So.
There you go. You're about to be a VTuber. You know?
Oh, you know it. Besides that, I can't blame folks for wanting to go back to a simpler time right now. What can I say? I feel the call myself. And what better way to get back on the horse than to get back on the horse? All right.
Yeah.
So, Adam, thank you so much. I'm going to grab a link to your article here real quick, and we're going to try and force all 30 of these people that are currently in chat to go and visit that article, because it is quite important.
Yeah. So while you do that, I'll just filibuster. So my Substack is muzzlevelocity.substack.com. It's my blog where I talk about whatever I really feel like talking about. I mostly talk about public policy issues, and mostly international ones that I try to make it timely, but some days I just can't crank out an article in one sitting, like I did today. But, I think one of the things is like, there's an instinctive, reflexive attitude by people to get mad over things that happen to President Trump. And I understand it. I appreciate it. It's like a noble thing to do. Right. But like, sometimes you have to take the moment to like take a step back and understand the consequence. Right. Because you need like processing these things, especially if you take politics very seriously, is very important, because otherwise you'll just go insane. Right. So I work in politics. I run a foundation as a day job.
Oh, what do you do? Hold on. I didn't know about this. What's you go ahead and besmirch your foundation by bringing it up on the show?
It's not besmirching it. So I run the Huffines Liberty Foundation out here in Dallas, Texas. But I work in politics, or in the world of politics, and so like I go to conventions. Like I went to Turning Point in Tampa, and then I went to CPAC here in Dallas, and then I go to these things. I talk to people, but for those of you who have like jobs, and for those of you who have to like interact with the real world, it's very important to like make sure like these things don't directly affect your life on a day-to-day basis, because oftentimes they don't, in terms of like the micro, which is like your daily survival and all that. Letting it affect you, like a real way, is a part of like this thing of the hyper politicization of the world, and you need to resist letting politics come into your daily life in any sort of a way possible, because it is a toxic thing. And so like when that was kind of the goal with my article about this, is to kind of process it in sort of its mechanical functions of like what the consequences actually are. And the consequences are serious, right? These are serious things that I talk about. But at the same time, like the reasons why we pay attention to these things is because of the drama and the intrigue. But we're fortunate for most of us that these types of like mildly insane things don't happen to us. And I think just thanking God and appreciating that life is not as dramatic as it is for some of these people. But
I'm gonna go ahead and take a moment to just audibly knock on wood there real quick, just to make sure that because you never know. We do live in interesting times, my friend. And you personally, if anybody would be the one to be worried about that, both active in politics, run a foundation, which, let's face it, you're the exact type of person Lois Lerner would have targeted.
Well, luckily I know a thing or two about like how that worked, since I worked at the Treasury, and like you know, cross your T's and dot your I's, like do the paperwork. Don't bend the rules, and the IRS will not bat a second eye when it comes to investigating the books of the foundation. But a lot of that stuff, to be honest, a lot of that stuff requires informants saying something, and I think people really underestimate how much people sending tips really affect these things, because like it's a needle in a haystack otherwise. Granted, there is definite targeting of political rivals by these institutions. But,
well, and Lois Lerner was a particular example of that specifically happening, where she had held up all kinds of applications for various different people strictly based on the fact that they were conservative, and that was. If I remember correctly, the internal emails that were revealed many years later revealed that was explicitly the criteria which they used in order to select who was going to get extra scrutiny.
Oh, absolutely. It's deeply shameful. Like but it's the reality is that bad things do happen to people.
Hey, Rico, we're all on a list somewhere. That is for sure. Look, having dealt with a lot of friends in a lot of intelligence circles, I could tell you, everyone is on some list somewhere. The question is which lists your names are on. That's always the question. I'll be honest with you. The FBI probably knows your affiliation better than you do. I mean all of you. Literally all of you. Doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. They track everybody. If they want to, and if you try and apply for a job, they can go so far as what they did for me when I was getting my security clearance, which was they interviewed my shrink, who I'd been seeing for many years, and went through all of his like 7-year-long case notes. Like it gets pretty in detail, folks. Although I do have a question about that real quick, Adam. Like, do they do that kind of vetting for the people at the top, or is it just kind of hand wavy, like when Trump and his family came in?
Like the political appointees, like
Yeah,
you go through normal what's the paperwork called for your clearance?
It's been so long, man.
I want to say the word
anymore.
JPass, but I have it written down somewhere. So next to me, and I'm not going to show you guys because it would be. Well, it looks like I'm a hoarder, but is like my files of things that I keep because I live in an apartment and I don't have space other than to put next to my desk.
Poor man.
And so like I have a whole thing of documents that I use for whenever I had to do our clearance re-adjudication. So it's pretty typical. The things that get like really weird are financial investments.
Oh boy, and debts. Oh boy, don't you be in debt.
Well, it's not just the debt; it's about like who you've worked with in the past. Like, because you have to redo all that, not just for the security clearance paperwork, but for basically for the ethics department for that stuff. So that's why, like, if you look up like ethics violations of political appointees, like especially the ones that they overly covered were the Trump admin, but there's always people who get popped for ethics violations.
Oh, in every admin, and it's almost a constant stream.
That's right, because like someone forgets that like their client once was somebody who's receiving current federal funds from their section of their department that they work at. Because a lot of people come from industry and all that. So, so like that stuff, like you have to be very, very detailed about. When I was in the Trump admin, there's this whole lobbying moratorium. So you have to like basically like you have to make sure that you hadn't been a lobbyist for like I think it was like a year, up to a year before, during the Trump admin, and then you had to sign something that said that you couldn't be a lobbyist for 3 years afterwards or 4 years, something really long like that. That got nixed to 6 months. But it doesn't like neither here nor there. There's all sorts of like things you have to like sign that you understand the rules, and these ethics rules, like it's very weird because they like if you violate them, sometimes it's not a criminal charge. So sometimes it's not even a charge at all, but you don't really know what is like considered like if you break this, violate this, are you breaking a law? So there's all sorts of things like that that are like de facto um, ways that they kind of control it. But the people at the top always figure out a way to like avoid the scrutiny or bend the rules because that's how you get to the top in some of these places, right? Jared Kushner will figure out a way to make it money, like that's what the Kushners do.
Can you see my side screen, because this is the last topic I wanted to bring up before we head out? Guess who is already fundraising off of this?
Is it the GOP?
It sure as fuck is the GOP.
Well, it's funny because like I get those. That's Charlie's text, isn't it?
It sure is Charlie Kirk. Yep.
Yeah.
I love Charlie.
That's funny. So yeah, right on cue. GOP is fundraising off of an FBI raid. Yep, that's right. It sounds about right. Immediately. It's very disgusting. This is why so many people like. So like the joke in the admin was that like for some reason so like I remember when I came into admin like the last year,
right,
more or less, right? And so I didn't really know what DC was about, and like I had pretty good understanding, but like I'm a provincial like through and through,
right?
So you get to the imperial capital, and like I'm now going to parties and stuff like that with like to meet other Republicans because like that's the only people who would go to do things because of COVID lockdowns. And like I'm like talking to all these like people who worked at the Republican Party headquarters in DC, and like like smarmy, like whatever, like the very unimpressive people who want to be considered impressive, and I'm like, man, I turned to a friend of mine. I'm like, man, why are so many of these people on like Carly Fiorina for Congress or for president campaign? Why are so many of these people like on Ben Carson for president campaign? Why are so many of these people like all these like guys who couldn't even crack the top 10, presidential campaigns work there? And like he's like, well, first of all, like these are astroturfed candidates. Like these were party approved people, so they like have this like back and forth thing. But like there's this whole set of like plugged in consultants who just jump back and forth from certain like companies and back to the party and back and forth. No one will hire them in a legislative office or the executive offices for good reasons, but doesn't matter. They all go
because these are people who wanted to get into politics but have backgrounds and pasts that are easily accessible. There's dirt that is out there that would be way too easy to dig up and fling out, so they can't be the public face of a campaign.
Well, the thing is also too, like these guys have no policy chops, right? They don't understand like how the government actually works.
Right.
On top of that, they're like these guys are like not super literate. Like one of the things I was trying to explain last night in a Twitter space that Ron was listening to is that like one of the things that people really underestimate the importance of is like being super well read going into government, because it's not so much that you need to know a lot of things about like history and all that and monetary policy and to like do the work. You just have to know how to read like at a very sophisticated level, so that you can actually like do the research, find what you can and can't do, craft policy around it, maybe craft legislation around it, so that it can go up, so it can be affected as policy. And like that's just something that Republicans don't have very many people that do that. Whereas the Democrats have that in loads and plethoras, right? It's
Yeah.
just like they have people who really really love reading how regulation works, and like it just doesn't happen all that much in the Republican Party, and the worst ones are in the party themselves. You know, I can really go into detail about how these guys get rich. Well, like rich in like the DC sense, like they become upper middle class, well to do, and then they basically recycle themselves through the generations of being attached to it. But you basically have this whole like pay it forward, pay to play system. Eventually, by which these guys, retire at the top with like a couple $1 million in the bank, in a house in Northern Virginia, and then the generation that had to do all the work just beneath them then takes their place, and that people beneath them do it. It's very, very. It's weird to see that because like it doesn't work that way in most of the states. The Republican Party outside of DC is not the same party practically as the one inside of it. From what I gather, the Democrats are similar to that too, but the Democrats are far more professional in DC. Like like once you get to like mid senior positions in DC in the Democrat Party, like you're competitively paid, whereas in the Republican ones, you're not. Republicans are incredibly stingy when it comes to compensation. So you basically have like all these things that create this really goofball party that is supposed to represent half the country. So,
boy, it's
I
almost
don't
like
really-
it's almost like the more I hear about the Republican Party at a national level, the more it sounds like controlled opposition. Huh.
I mean, it kind of is like, and I like just to like I actually have it's even worse than that, like in a way. Like it's not so much controlled opposition because like it's not really American controlled. Like the thing is the Republican
Well,
Party
there you
is
go. But neither
a
is
lot
the other side.
right, like the Republican Party, like there's Democrats who are invested heavily in China, Russia, Ukraine, whatever. But like, traditionally the Democrats have always played footsie with Russia-ish, right? And like over the long history of it,
Oh, yeah.
right? And the Republicans have always played footsie with China. During back when Germany mattered in the world stage, it was mostly the Republicans who played footsie with Germany. And so like there's all this like weird like history of it, but predominantly we're like it's easier for foreign countries to like effectively lobby legally. Like we're talking legal lobbying here, right? Is the Republican Party because there's a joke out there that you have all the capitalists or like all the real capitalists are in the Republican Party. They're all looking for more pay, so people are willing to like cash out a lot more avariciously. This is one of the best things that Trump introduced into the Republican Party, is that it basically created this culture of shame in among Republicans that like you don't want to be a Chamber of Commerce Republican. You don't want to be the guy who's like a high-powered lobbyist that foreign governments go to do. Like that's considered that basically the Trump years had created like a culture of shame around that, because now it's like what you want to do is be like an activist at the barricades and saying I want to do I want to make America great again, and that's cool now. That's one of the good things that definitely has come out of Trump, is that it's changed the culture radically of what is socially acceptable in the Republican Party.
Well, yeah,
And
because look, I don't tell people where I am locally, but I'll tell you that local politics is a very interesting thing. You would think my state, for all of the talk about how radical my deep red state is, would be a lot more willing to talk about making some changes that need to be made. But the truth of the matter is, the party is very old money and very entrenched, and was part of making things the way they were, and they did it for a reason, and it's because they benefit from it.
Right.
Uh,
Here's what I tell people. Like Christy Nome is a disappointment to most conservatives, right?
oh God.
And so, like in fairness, in an oblique way, I defend her. Is that you got to remember South Dakota is a small state with a small group of donors, and the amount of money it takes to win a South Dakota race is actually quite small, statewide.
Which you'd think is an advantage, but it's not, because it makes you more vulnerable for outside influence.
Yes, it's a curse, and so you have fewer people who can exert influence on that election, and so you have to like win more by percentage over on your team. Otherwise you can like lose primaries, you can lose elections. Whereas like in Texas, where I live right now, you can have like really knockdown, drag out, very competitive primaries, every single primary in different districts, because there's so many different Republican factions here. Same thing with the Democrat side, because it's such a big, rich state that like there's so many people who are willing to deploy capital and do things to affect different types of intricate policies. Whereas like in a place like South Dakota, like your governor, the governor, I don't know where you live, but like using Ron as an example, Ron's governor, Christy Nome, has to obey
oh yeah,
lobby. Period.
Oh yeah, no. Look. I can safely say this because this is literally the situation in any red state you care to mention. I am in a red state where the capital city is in one of the only blue counties in the entire state, and also happens to be by far the highest concentration of extremely rich donors. So doesn't matter how conservative the rest of the state wants to be. The fact is if the gentleman wants to make money for his campaign, which he will need to get elected, he will be bowing to leftists. That's just the fact of the matter.
Absolutely.
Adam, we should talk more about the mechanics of politics sometime. I think it'd be fun to do a little primer just for the entirely politically uneducated, our fellow provincials who have not yet stumbled into the putrid swamp about the actual mechanics of how shit really does get done. Like, we might even be able to rope in an animator, man. We could turn this into a new Schoolhouse Rock. We could get some jingles going.
That'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool. I mean, I would like, my thing is like, I like to talk about like my particular interests are like, I can do like the stuff that's like, here's how like a bill actually becomes a law type of thing. But like my thing I'm really interested in is like the deep politics.
Yes.
Right. Like the and like it's the stuff sounds a little crazy. And like I like just talking to people in real life, I kind of realize that it has a very narrow audience, because if you know, you know. But
it does, and like part of the thing is like it's one of the scariest things that will ever affect your life. And look, you may not agree with my assessment of this, but here's been my assessment for a very long time. It's a gang. It's a gang just like any other gang. And just like some gangs, they've developed some really strange ritualistic behavior. Some incredibly strange ritualistic behavior.
Well, like this is like, here's a really good example. Is like, I'll use the same book. So I've gone to the well with this book so many times.
Oh, yeah.
Over last few.
I'm gonna have to read it now.
The Council on Foreign
Future
on
Conflict.
Future Conflict. Thank you. As well as this show today too. And you know, it talks about what happened to, like, talking deep politics and history, like what happened to the Germans after World War II. Like, obviously we know about paperclip. We paperclipped a lot of Germans here. Well, like the head of foreign intelligence in Nazi Germany was probably working for the Soviets during this World War II. Him and his people went to the Soviet Union. And then there's this guy.
Well, hold on, because we're bringing this up, and I've actually done some research myself into this recently. It turns out that the split ended up being kind of interesting, and it was other powers that be decided this split. It was not the U.S. or the Soviets that decided this split, or at least were not the final decision makers. And they essentially split them up by speciality. The U.S. got all the technical people. whereas the Soviets got all the highly gifted, shall we say, political apparatchiks and
Right.
people who understood how to do manipulation.
And the spies, but like, you know, you have like Otto Korzeniewski and his ilk of like, you know, German Uber commandos going to work for Israel. Like, and none of it makes sense unless if you stop thinking about things ideologically.
Chat wants
And
you to
this-
hold the book up real quick so they can read the cover.
So,
This is The Spy Who Would Be Czar by Kevin Coogan.
it's a tough read, fair warning. There's a lot of names in it, and it becomes like kind of difficult to like sift through.
Is it become a little bit Genesis-ish at some parts?
No. It's definitely like he's very thorough and he tries to explain things as slowly as possible, but
But it's also complicated because again,
there's
it's
a lot
politics.
of suggestive reading. But like so, like you know, like one of the things that I'll recommend to people, and this is part of the reason why I recommend people to not get into politics professionally, is to stop thinking about everything in ideological terms, because it matters because that's what helps guide decisions, but that's not what the process of politics actually is, right? And Vladimir Lenin almost like tipped his hat a little too much a couple of times. The same thing with Leon Trotsky when they were writing the revolutionary writings during the Russian Revolution. Is that they talked about this, and they talk about Trotsky says about the whom, right? And Lenin says it, but like Trotsky also writes about it. And in various writings, these guys actually kind of discuss the power politics of like, you know, it's very important like who you know and who's actually doing what and what process and putting the right people in the right places and all this, and that like, you know, the distinctions between Marxism, Leninism, Trotskyism is kind of like beside the point, and it's like it's actually about the person who's nominally in charge of the faction.
It's about the social cliques. That's it, guys. It's a gang.
Exactly.
It's not that hard to figure out. It's a gang.
Exactly. And so that's the thing that I would that's why I really suggest like once you start dropping isms from your analysis, the more you kind of see the reality is like,
look, that is where and I hate to bring up another ism, but that is where objectivism really unveiled my eyes, and that is I love what Ayn Rand says about call things what they are. Stop using convoluting language to hide things. Call them what they are. No, Adam, I love it. We should do this. We should do the whole. I mean, probably not Schoolhouse Rock style because I don't know if I can pay for that much animation. But we should definitely bring people who are uninitiated into it. But you need to go to bed, my good friend. I can see.
No, I just need to wind down for the evening. But yeah, for sure. It's been a good talk. Thank you. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to Watch Around the Web on YouTube. I'm Real Adam K on Twitter, and
I've dropped the link there for his article about the rate, guys. You need to go see it. But Adam, I dropped this earlier while you were talking. I'm going to drop it again just real quick. Is this not one of the most accurate memes about all of DC you've seen in a long time?
Yeah, that's actually very true. That's good. Can you please send that to me on Twitter?
Yeah,
I need to send that. I'm going to send it to I'll text you. I'll tell you who I'm going to send it to. So
perfect.
You actually post it.
Perfect. I love it. Actually, I'll even post it on my own profile, so maybe he'll share it directly out. There's a couple things though. Chad has had some questions that I don't know if you've noticed, and I want to make sure they get covered.
Chat, so.
Okay, so Chat wanted to know first of all, where's the best dive bar in DC?
It's Harry's. It's off of it's off of what, 12th Street or 10th Street, I can't remember. And like Pennsylvania, I think or maybe it's F. Anyways, it's right next to FBI building, coincidentally enough.
Hey, Lone Wolf, you're not wrong there. This is why I generally don't like to say Democrats unless it is specifically a Democrat. Hold on, I'll read what he says.
Yeah,
Lone Wolf says the most authoritarian statists I've ever worked with were conservative Republicans who came into office and spent every dime they could. Yes, I will say that I say deep state for a reason, and it's not because it's not because I'm a big fan of Big H or anything. It's because there are people on both sides who do the exact same thing. It is a monoparty. I used to say monoparty, but it's not quite true now because there is now a splinter faction within the Republican Party that is not controlled opposition, or at least would seem to not be controlled opposition. Who knows? There might be a double rug pull. You never know, folks. Life can be that shitty sometimes. But barring a double rug pull, there does seem to be a splinter faction. So now I think the appropriate term is deep state. As much as it makes some people roll their eyes, because it not only covers the parties, it covers the non-party aligned bureaucratic state that just kind of floats on and exists regardless of who's in power. Many of whom have contracts and deals that make it nearly impossible to fire them, even if they have been doing malfeasance. It's a long road ahead, folks. And if nothing else, words that I will turn you to were Mark Sibley, who has been on fire on Twitter today. I don't know if this current tweet that I'm referencing is still up or not, but he essentially lays out how you should proceed, which is, guys, get politically active in your area. Make sure that people know what is going on. Have some fucking children. Raise those children to understand what is going on in the world. Keep them away from the leftist influence that's going on as best you can. And try and work. Look, keep in mind, gentlemen, that your glorious day may not come in your lifetime. And that this is the difficult work many often refer to of planting trees in whose shade you may never walk. Keep that in mind as we push forward, gentlemen. It's very important. We must be the strong men that the poor times we find ourselves in demand we become. I love all of you guys. Thank you for following me. Oh wait, Rico has one more question about DC. He asks, "Have you eaten at Babe's Chicken in Dallas?"
Oh no, I haven't yet. Oh wait, Dave's Hot Chicken.
Babe's Chicken.
Oh, Babe's. No, I haven't.
Do they have a Raising Cane's down there?
I do. I have.
Is that not just the best goddamn chicken you've ever had?
The problem is, it's like, you basically eat your whole days of calories.
It is unsustainable. You cannot live next to it, like in the same city as one. You will gain 20 pounds the first year you live there. But as a person who lives in Whataburger's good stuff too. God damn it.
Taco Deli, Whataburger is pretty. What else is good Texas stuff?
I haven't been to Whataburger since I lived in Florida. Do you guys have a Checkers?
Probably. I haven't looked for one.
Or a White Castle. I'm not gonna lie, I could do some White Castle sliders now.
So I never got really onto that White Castle lifestyle. So when I was like in the Census Bureau before I went to Trump admin.
Holy shit! Do you just like enjoy getting tarred and feathered? You were a Census Bureau, and then you went into the Treasury Department. What? Do you just enjoy being hated?
Yeah, that's right.
Was lawyer just not available?
No, I just don't have the patience to do law school, right? So across the street from our office was White Castle, but around the block was this a Peruvian chicken place run by Koreans.
Brother, if you gave me the option, White Castle and like some down home chicken place, I'm agreeing with you every time. I would have never known what White Castle was, but the fact is my options were White Castle or the NAS Pensacola Chow Hall or Waffle House. And the fact
you were at NAS,
brother. I was at NAS for so fucking long. I started growing moss.
So I was at I was at Corey Station for my MLS school.
Of course you were at Corey Station. My a girl that I was fooling around with was at Corey Station, so I had the privilege to go there often.
Yeah,
which is
like,
how I knew about the Waffle House right in front of Corey Station.
That's
God
right.
damn,
Like,
that is the greatest Waffle House that has ever
That's
existed.
Waffle House, hands down.
Look, it is the only Waffle House you can go into and confidently know you're not going to get stabbed. There might be a fight coming out of a bar, but you're not going to get stabbed or shot.
That's right. It was like, it's also like so there's some Waffle Houses in Dallas that are really nice, but a lot of them are like really, really gross. And I really kind of, I sometimes stop in a Waffle House because I miss
because you have literally because no, I do the exact same thing, brother. I go to places where there are Waffle Houses because I remember the Waffle House next to Corey Station, and I think that feeling when you're in Florida and you're there for training and you've been there for so fucking long, you forgot what your mom looks like, and
right.
You've started to like adapt to this weird culture. Right, you're like you're 1 foot in the Marine Corps, 1 foot not in the Marine Corps yet. Right? And it's this weird whirlwind of a place where it's only the most intelligent dudes in the Marine Corps that are all hanging out there. So it's a bunch of fucking weirdos. And so you're all weirdos together in this really interesting place. And then summer rolls around and they shoot Girls Gone Wild right there on the beach.
They do.
It's just the most ridiculous place. But you'll find yourself one of those nights coming home and you don't want to go through the gates yet. So you're just kind of hanging out. And there'll be this sign like a beacon, like an oasis in the middle of the desert, saying, "Waffles are here. So is smothered hash browns, and we will be warm and welcoming, and so will literally every other drunk ass motherfucker who's stumbling in here halfway. There will be so many cabs checking in and out, but everyone will have a spirit of camaraderie." I remember that, and I stumble into this wretched shit hive of a Waffle House, and then I immediately go, "Oh right, it was only that one."
Yeah, I once upon a time, very recently, I was like, oh, I have like a 7 a.m. flight to from DFW, so I'm like, I'm gonna wake up extra early and go get Waffle House breakfast along the way, because there's like one, like from where I live, there's one right along the way close to where I'm gonna park my car, and I go in it, and the guy has all the day's trash piled up right next to the stove, and I'm like sitting at the counter. I'm just like, what? I'm like, I guess like he apologized profusely. He's like, look, I'm understaffed, and like I'm the only man here who could actually like lift this, so I'm also the only cook. And I'm like, it's still like just don't cook my food yet. Like take it out.
Just finish cleaning first, please, for the love of God.
And
also, don't order the pie. Like, the pie has been in there since longer than you've been born. Don't order the pie.
Just keep it simple. Like, waffles, eggs, bacon, keep
Brother,
it. Like,
smothered hash browns. That's, I am all about those smothered hash browns.
Right.
All right.
Sorry.
No, you're totally fine, man. You gotta get going.
That's right.
One more thing though before you go. Rock and roll Tyrannosaurus says you worked as a census taker. That he worked as a census taker and got hit by a dog, or almost got attacked by a dog. To which Hunch the Dirty Roofer says, "Hey, he wasn't an IRS agent, and that's got to count for something." And with that, I think thank you for being here, Adam. We really appreciate you. Guys, go check out his article. Watch my stream. It's kind of late. I have to decide whether I'm going to stream Good Fun Cowboy Times or not. But we hope you'll be with us tomorrow on the show. So, see you later.
Bye.